The Ascension Stone. To think that such a divine object exists in this world, and it was man-made. The power of the immortal realm is truly extraordinary. Among the group, Qin Shenwu was undoubtedly the most shocked by the Ascension Stone. Having reached the realm of Mahayana, Qin Shenwu had long been searching for a means to ascend safely, but he had never heard of an artifact that could guarantee safe ascension. The power of a Mahayana should, in theory, allow one to directly trigger the ascension light and traverse the immortal realm. However, in the history of the Floodgate realm, very few had dared to do so. The reason was simple. The success rate of direct ascensions over the past 10,000 years had been abysmally low, with many even at the peak of Mahayana disappearing without a trace. Only now did everyone understand the reason behind these failures. The frequent cosmic calamities had caused the paths to the immortal realm to become chaotic. Moreover, it seems that there are quite a few of these divine objects in the immortal realm, Jiang Chengxuan added, his face breaking into a smile as he felt the fluctuations from the storage ring. His palm suddenly burst into intense light, revealing several ascension stones, dazzling to behold. The lavish display was indeed shocking, even to someone of Qin Shenwu's standing, who couldn't help but gape at the sight. The value of these few ascension stones was no less than the combined treasures of the entire Haoran sect. To the group, this was akin to a windfall from the immortal realm. Everyone felt a surge of joy at this harvest. This trip to the immortal cave abode had undoubtedly brought the greatest fortune into the hands of the Haoran sect. It was unknown what the Pantheon sect and other sects that had invited them here would think if they knew of this discovery. However, these opportunities were not without great dangers and were not merely found by chance. If it were someone else, it would have been difficult to reach the end and arrive at this place. The rules of the world of cultivation are such that only those who align the right circumstances, location, and human connections can truly dominate. Opportunities are reserved for those with the strength to seize them. Eventually, after a brief further exploration, the group meticulously tidied up the cave. The storage ring was indeed the only relic left by immortal Eastern River. Having secured all opportunities, the group then began to think about how to leave. In this ancient cave, there was nothing that could be considered an exit. Husband, perhaps check the storage ring to see if there is a way to leave, Shen Ruyan suggested. Jiang Chengxuan then searched the storage ring carefully, and indeed found an array disk, which seemed related to teleportation or translocation. He took out the array disk from the ring and placed it in his palm, about to channel his power into it to activate the array when suddenly, an enigmatic fluctuation unfolded. O beings of destiny, since you have activated this disk, it indicates that you have witnessed the secrets here. A strange voice suddenly emanated from the void, immensely vast and ancient, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. Is this the voice of immortal Eastern River? Jiang Chengxuan and the others realized. It appeared that immortal Eastern River's opportunities were not meant to be handed over directly. Perhaps there was still a last will left behind. As Jiang Chengxuan and the others listened intently, the profound voice continued. I traversed the 36 celestial domains. I was a peerless force among my contemporaries, reaching the summit. Yet due to the schemes and betrayal by peers, I fell into traps and was forced to perish here. In my final battle, the traitors were slain by me in desperate combat, yet the mastermind behind my downfall remains alive. When I think of this place, my heart is filled with unwillingness and cannot rest. The voice of immortal Eastern River, filled with immense regret and anger, continued. O being of destiny, having passed my trials and inherited my rules of life and death, it means you possess the potential to shine brightly in the immortal realm. However, to inherit all that I have left, you must swear an oath of your Tao heart. Should there come a day, you must seek vengeance for me. My enemy is the Earth Immortal of Profound Heaven Immortal sect from the Jade Light Domain, Immortal Red Flame. Remember this. If you are unwilling, then place the storage ring back completely and leave through the stone door behind this platform. As the last words faded, the voice of immortal Eastern River disappeared, and the cave fell into complete silence. This request left Jiang Chengxuan deep in thought. On reflection, the terms seemed reasonable, and it was hard to argue against them. Immortal Eastern River's cave had bestowed upon them numerous fortunes, and it would be excessively greedy to expect to receive the final treasures without any conditions. Red Fire Immortal. Jiang Chengxuan muttered the name, suddenly recalling the formidable presence that had intimidated him and Shen Ruyan in the final test of the inheritance, a presence filled with destructive power and the aura of an immortal. That terrifying moment was still vivid in his memory. The force they encountered was undoubtedly that of an Earth immortal, explaining the overwhelming pressure they felt. Moreover, there was a crucial detail in immortal Eastern River words. Over the long years since his death, immortal Red Flame's realm might have advanced beyond that of an Earth immortal. If he had reached heavenly immortal and established his own celestial domain, the difficulty of fulfilling this oath would multiply exponentially. Jiang Chengxuan was overwhelmed with thoughts, even as Qin Shenwu, desperate for the opportunity to ascend, had to pause and consider the gravity of the situation. Taking on an enemy who might be a heavenly immortal while only at the level of managing the Tao was a daunting, if not reckless, challenge. The potential consequences were immense, and even Jiang Chengxuan, accustomed to weighing his options, had to deliberate deeply. Jiang Chengxuan now faced the prospect of vowing enmity against a being who spanned several major realms beyond his current level, a truly formidable terror. Should immortal Red Flame perceive any link to this vendetta before Jiang Chengxuan could ascend, eliminating them would be as easy as flicking a finger. Yet this was only the worst-case scenario Jiang Chengxuan habitually prepared for. It was also conceivable that immortal Red Flame was merely a lesser figure below Earth Immortal, who had used cunning means to fatally undermine immortal Eastern River. Such optimistic conjecture could be considered wishful thinking. Regardless, the adversary in question was at least of Earth Immortal stature. The last words of immortal Eastern River put everyone in a difficult position. As they faced such a powerful enemy, one could not be indifferent. After all, what immortal Eastern River required was a vow of the heart. Once made, should they encounter immortal Red Flame in the future, they must act against him in good conscience. Should they act cowardly under the vow, they would never be able to continue cultivating. Their realms might even suffer backlash, their hearts could shatter, and they might even die on the spot. Ultimately, Jiang Chengxuan stepped forward and swore over the remains of immortal Eastern River. I, Jiang Chengxuan, hereby make a vow. If the opportunity arises to avenge our predecessor, I will do everything in my power to slay immortal Red Flame of the Floodgate Immortal sect. As the words fell, a mysterious power emerged and entered Jiang Chengxuan's heart. Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan felt a strange connection to immortal Red Flame, whom he had once encountered briefly. Following Jiang Chengxuan's lead, the others no longer hesitated and one by one declared their names and made their vows. The resolute voices of their vows echoed through the cave, seemingly softening the atmosphere of the entire immortal cave abode. If immortal Eastern River had a spirit watching over them, he would likely find peace at this moment. Boom, boom. Just then, sounds emerged from the platform above, startling Jiang Chengxuan and the others who had just made their vows. They looked up to see the body of immortal Eastern River, which had been lifeless for countless years, inexplicably standing up from the stone seat. This scene shocked everyone, sending chills down their spines. However, in the next moment, the deceased immortal Eastern River actually bowed to everyone, and then black and white flames erupted from the void, slowly turning his body to ashes. Everyone was deeply moved. Such was the strong will of immortal Eastern River that it persisted through the ages. One could only imagine what would happen if anyone tried to leave with the storage ring without heeding his last words. If Jiang Chengxuan's guess was correct, immortal Eastern River's body must have retained the power for one last strike. If anyone tried to ignore his last words, the self-immolating black and white flames would have more targets than just himself. Such flames, capable of burning the body of an Earth immortal, were undoubtedly lethal to anyone below the level of immortals. But fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan and the others were people of honor. This scene undoubtedly proved that their vows were recognized by immortal Eastern River. A sense of karma seemed to connect everyone silently. Before they could further sense it, the cave began to tremble violently. Boom, boom. The platform beneath them started to crack hugely. At the same time, the entire massive immortal cave abode began to shake from the outside. The signs of destruction and collapse looming at that very moment. It seems that having completed its purpose, this immortal cave abode is set to collapse directly. Holding the array disc in his hand, Jiang Chengxuan slowly said, The entire immortal cave abode was intended to find the destined ones and pass on the legacy. Now that both tasks had been completed, the best plan to avoid karmic repercussions was to destroy this place. Under the vows of Jiang Chengxuan and others, immortal Eastern River could finally rest completely. And the most precious treasures of immortal Eastern River had been collected by them. Immortal Eastern River's plan, right up to this moment, was finally complete. Let's go. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan infused the black and white rules of life and death into the array disk in his hand. Patterns emerged in his mind and eventually formed an extremely mysterious formation. It turned out that this array disk contained a formation that could transport anyone within the immortal cave abode at will. Jiang Chengxuan activated the formation, and in the next moment, everyone's figures flashed and they disappeared from the cave. Boom, boom. As they left, the platform finally collapsed completely, burying all secrets under countless ruins. But outside, in a certain secret realm, the Deadliest of the Pantheon sect and his followers were battling a group of strange beasts. These beasts, resembling hunting dogs with bodies aflame, were as large as small mountains. The leader among them was at the level of a peak Deadliest. And behind this pack of beasts, there was a very precious immortal herb emitting light, which was the reason why the Pantheon sect was fighting here. Boom, boom. But just then, a terrifying tremor came from around them. The rules of the secret realm began to collapse. The sense of destruction came from all directions, causing both human and beast to stop their attacks immediately, their faces filled with fear. Recognizing the severity of the situation, the Lord of the Pantheon sect instantly knew that the area was about to collapse. He could even sense that this was due to the complete destruction of the entire immortal cave abode. "Let's go," he commanded urgently to his followers. In the next instant, he dashed forward, reaching out to grasp the precious immortal herb. However, the leader of the beasts also lunged forward, its gaping jaws aiming to devour. In a frantic moment, the struggle for the immortal herb resulted in it being torn in half. After a brief, intense stare-down, both parties, driven by the urgency of escape rather than continuing their battle, each took half of the herb and fled with their respective groups. But Xianxia Hall, Deadliest Southbright, well done. From now on, infinite sect and your sect are irreconcilable. We're leaving. In another part of Immortal Cave abode, the scene was similarly chaotic. Here, the infinite sect Deadliest, who had previously supported Jiang Chengxuan and others, was shouting at his counterpart, Deadliest Southbright of Xianxia Hall. Clearly, the two factions were competing for some other opportunity within the cave. However, as the impending destruction arrived, the infinite sect Deadliest, unable to regain the upper hand, was forced to issue a threatening declaration. "HMPH, do you really think Xianxia Hall is afraid of you? We're leaving too," retorted Deadliest Southbright. The next moment, both parties swiftly departed, each leading their disciples and followers, transforming into streaks of light that vanished into the void. Boom, boom. The terrifying sounds of collapse were descending upon every corner of Immortal Cave abode. All those still inside felt the immense dread of the catastrophe, quickly dropping everything to flee for their lives. In an instant, this coveted treasure trove transformed into a land of doom. Even the creatures that had lived there for countless ages were forced to evacuate, issuing mournful cries that echoed with a desolate sadness. This immortal cave abode, which had nurtured countless powerful beings, was in the end doomed to destruction as part of Immortal Eastern River's plan. All its inhabitants had no choice but to watch their nurturing ground crumble into oblivion. With just a thought, an immortal can affect the lives of millions, and the entire Immortal Cave abode is no smaller than a whole realm. Throughout the countless years since the death of Immortal Eastern River, many beings, by chance or destiny, have made their way to this Immortal Cave abode, creating a thriving world. This world was not only composed of the powerful guardian beasts that Jiang Chengxuan and others had encountered, but also included countless weaker species that had just begun to touch the threshold of spiritual energy. The impending collapse of the Immortal Cave abode drove these creatures out of hiding, swarming in groups throughout the crumbling world, desperately seeking a path to survival. Fortunately, amidst this misfortune, all the beasts had lost their appetite for hunting, indifferent even to easy prey. Under Eastern River's design, there was no distinction between the strong and the weak. As Jiang Chengxuan and his group left the Immortal Cave abode, disasters erupted elsewhere. Terrifying forces burst from various regions of the cave, sending myriad elemental powers skyrocketing into the heavens, weaving a tapestry of apocalyptic visions. These were the opportunities and trials left behind by immortal Eastern River. As the cave began to self-destruct, these sealed forces unleashed their fury, accelerating the onset of destruction. Stars comparable in size to continents fell from the sky, bringing extreme cold that instantly sparked a terrifying cold wave, freezing thousands of miles. Purple flames leaked from somewhere, burning through the void and tearing open patches of chaotic blackness, from which chaotic energies surged, instantly withering all plant life. Towering mountains suddenly crumbled into massive boulders that swept across the land, creating huge chasms that split the cave, a horrifying sight to behold. Such scenes of destruction appeared everywhere in the immortal cave abode, and all living beings there fled in terror. Among the fleeing masses were forces from various sects that had infiltrated from the heavenly torrent realm, nearly every group now diminished in number. Under such immense power, not even the great Tao immortals could protect everyone. "Shifu, save me," cried a disciple from the Five Elements Heaven sect, caught in a storm of purple flames. But faced with the sweeping storm, his fellow sect members did not even pause to look back, turning away and leaving him to be consumed by the flames, his tears flowing as he succumbed to regret and turned to ashes. Betrayal, abandonment, and tough decisions played out in every sect group, with the exception of the Haoran sect. In such times, it was nearly impossible for one person to ensure everyone's safety, and there was also the urgent need to find a way out. Every cultivator there, without exception, faced attacks of varying degrees, including those from the Pantheon sect, with casualties among their ranks. As the entire cave collapsed, no one could afford to worry about others anymore, and everyone immediately began searching for an exit. Given the vastness of this realm, reaching its edge to escape was tremendously difficult. Their vision was filled with endless disasters and destruction, and even the Daelords of the sects couldn't help but look solemn. In an obscure part of the immortal cave abode, two figures were desperately dodging dangers. Dressed in white and green robes, they were the haggard-looking Daelord Skeleton and Daelord Phantom Ghost, severely weakened from their previous encounter with Jiang Chengxuan and his group. After their defeat, they had hidden in a secret realm, fearing pursuit by Jiang and his companions. They spent their days in anxiety, not even fully recovering their strength, but now faced the sudden collapse of the immortal cave abode. Incredibly distressed, they dodged disasters in a doomsday scene, also constantly wary of other pursuers, given the numerous enemies of the Bone Magic sect and the Soul sect. Their luck was terribly poor. Having just escaped one disaster zone, they immediately encountered a sky-covering storm of purple flames sweeping towards them. For the still recovering duo, this level of power was catastrophic. Standing atop a hastily made effigy of bones, the Daelord Skeleton manifested his rules, smashing through the oncoming wall of fire. The eerie purple flames turned the bone effigy red-hot, causing his wounds to ache painfully. This effigy, made from the remains of beasts in the secret realm, was not very powerful and barely serviceable for travel. Feeling the heat of the purple flames, his heart filled with resentment. If not for the sneak attack by Jiang and his group, how would he have ended up in such a dire situation? "Must we perish here today? I'm not willing. Haoran sect, I want you all dead." As the unstoppable whirlwind of purple flames broke through their defenses, the sight of imminent death loomed over the Daelord Skeleton, who roared in agony from the dark depths he had survived for countless years. Beside him, the Daelord Phantom Ghost also wore an expression of absolute despair, his face twisted in agony. At this moment, this life-threatening crisis was unfolding everywhere within the immortal cave abode. There were no exceptions under such calamity. However, just when all the infiltrating cultivators were succumbing to despair, a miraculous opportunity for survival began to manifest. Midst the collapsing heavens and earth, a massive rift slowly opened in the sky of the immortal cave abode. Thunderous rumbles echoed as a mysterious light shone down from the rift, forcefully creating a stable passage across the vast immortal cave abode. Under the influence of this rift, all the calamities momentarily subsided. Undoubtedly, this was the last bit of hope left by immortal Eastern River for all beings. He had foreseen the potential scenarios for the cave, and had planned not to cause unnecessary slaughter in his strategic setup. Instantly, the countless beings within the immortal cave abode rekindled their hope and seized this momentary opportunity. Though it was unclear where this passage led, everyone was too desperate to care, and they all rushed towards it with all their might. Countless beings unleashed their strongest powers, turning into streams of light, large and small, densely packed as they surged across the sky toward the enormous rift. This scene was staggeringly breathtaking. Amidst the natural disasters, billions of luminous trails soared into the sky, aiming for the vast rift. "Go, hurry!" bellowed the forces from Floodgate Realm who had entered the immortal cave abode, almost in unison in that very instant. The Daelords burst forth with their powers, manifesting their Tao rules, desperately pushing themselves and their disciples forward. Even Daelord Skeleton and Daelord Phantom Ghost, heavily besieged by the purple flame storm, saw a glimmer of hope. They unleashed their last reserves of strength, fighting their way out of the endless curtain of fire. Their Tao robes were burnt and tattered, barely covering their bodies, leaving them with no semblance of dignity, yet the pair didn't pause for a second. They fought their way out, barely clinging to life. Finally, with not a single hair left unburnt and their bodies charred, the two stumbled into the portal, disappearing without a trace. Simultaneously, cultivators from other sects also plunged into the portal almost at the same moment, miraculously escaping the catastrophic disasters that enveloped them. Flashes of light continuously flickered. In the void, bursts of energy erupted like fireworks. Each ripple signified the entrance of a being into the portal. Under the stars, the terrifying calamities intensified, converging towards the center of the immortal cave abode. When they finally collided, it marked the moment of the cave's destruction. This eventuality did not seem prolonged. As the passage in the stars gradually faded into specks of light, the colliding forces of destruction, now at their most fearsome, finally clashed. In an instant, everything within the immortal cave abode collapsed. A terrifying surge of energy erupted, devouring all in its sight. Sounds, light, rules, and the void, all dissipated, leaving behind a vast expanse of nothingness in some outer spatial realm. It was as if an entire plane had been erased by some horrific force, leaving no trace behind. All opportunities, secrets, past grievances, everything was buried within this storm of destruction, unknown to anyone. The story of the immortal cave abode ended at this moment. While countless beings were still struggling amidst the cataclysms of the immortal cave abode, Jiang Cheng had already led his group to the edge of the immortal cave abode. This location was one of the normal exits of the cave, and fortunately, the cave's destruction had not yet reached this area. On their way here, everyone had witnessed the destructive forces sweeping through the immortal cave abode. The level of disaster was such that it made them all tremble with fear. Such calamities likely matched the heavenly tribulations of Floodgate Realm in intensity. The scheming of an Earth immortal, capable of annihilating an entire plane, seemed effortlessly within reach. Since each sect had declared they would go their own way upon entering the immortal cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan saw no need to go out of his way to mount a rescue at this time. Even though he possessed the array disk, it wasn't to say that he could navigate the tribulations freely. Attempting a rescue could expose everyone to grave dangers. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan chose not to make such a move. Although the Heoran sect upheld justice, they were not blindly altruistic. Everyone must bear the consequences of their choices, especially in the world of cultivation. We should leave. Immortal Eastern River was not heartless. He must have left some way out amidst this destruction, Jiang Chengxuan told his group. Having read the autobiography of Immortal Eastern River, he had gained some understanding of this powerful Earth immortal. Although domineering and cunning, the immortal was also a person of deep feelings and loyalty. For example, he didn't force everyone to accept his legacy, but allowed Jiang Chengxuan and others to make their choices, which indicated his respect for justice and morality. Indeed, I believe with the disposition of Immortal Eastern River, he wouldn't just let everything perish, Shen Ruyan added. As the inheritor of half of Immortal Eastern River's legacy, she too believed he was not devoid of compassion. With that, Jiang Chengxuan, without hesitation, allowed the black and white rules of life and death to emerge, channeling them into the array disk in his hand. The device emitted mysterious light, and its power projected onto the barrier. A deep blue portal of space and time slowly opened before them. Jiang Chengxuan then gestured on the array disk, raising a mysterious protective barrier around everyone. There was no need for Qin Shenwu to act this time. Under Jiang Chengxuan's lead, everyone's figure blurred, vanishing through the portal amid a swirl of spatial disorientation. The strong sensation of spatial displacement engulfed them all, making it feel like everything around was stretching infinitely. The array disc in Jiang Chengxuan's hand suddenly erupted with power, enveloping everyone tightly. The next moment, when the dust settled and the surroundings became clear, the scenery had dramatically changed. To his surprise, Jiang Chengxuan found that they were not outside the immortal cave abode in some outer space as expected, but had instead arrived within a new world. The atmosphere and the rules around them were strangely familiar. It was only then that Jiang Chengxuan and the others realized that they had unexpectedly been transported not just outside the immortal cave abode, but directly back to Floodgate Realm. Moments before, they were billions of miles away in the outer space of the immortal cave abode, and now, suddenly, they were back in the familiar setting of Floodgate Realm, their second home. The sensation of returning after ages overwhelmed everyone. "We're back," everyone exclaimed with overwhelming joy and relief. It was only upon returning here that the tension which had gripped their hearts since entering the immortal cave abode finally eased. The adventures and perils faced within the cave, as well as their gains, were momentarily pushed to the back of their minds. They had no idea how much time had passed since their departure. When they had left, only Qin Shenwu among them had reached the Mahayana. Now, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's combat abilities were on par with his. Before this journey, the realm of immortals had seemed an impossibly distant goal, like a chasm separating them from the divine. But now, not only had they witnessed the true form of an immortal, but they also understood countless secrets of the immortal realm. With the treasures and knowledge of immortal Eastern River now in their possession, reaching the realm of immortals seemed within their immediate grasp. The rewards from this journey were such that even if they spent 10 times longer cultivating in Floodgate Realm, they could not hope to compare. For a moment, Jiang Chengxuan felt a profound sense of triumphant return. After a brief examination, Jiang Chengxuan confirmed their location. It was a region in the southern area of the Floodgate Realm. Not far from the Haoran sect, everyone promptly decided to return to their sect without hesitation. They had been away for far too long this time due to the opportunities within the immortal cave abode, and everyone deeply missed their own sect, eager to return to their personal abodes to quietly reflect and settle. Jiang Chengxuan, with a homeward heart, led everyone as they transformed into streaks of light, speeding towards the location of the Haoran sect. With the strength of a Daelord, covering tens of thousands of miles in an instant was effortless, and soon, the characteristic landscapes of the Haoran sect appeared before Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. High peaks soared into the clouds, shrouded in mist around their midsections, standing majestically and distinctively as the cloud mist peak. The sect master and elder Shenwu have returned. The moment Jiang Chengxuan and others appeared at the entrance of the sect, it triggered exclamations of surprise from the disciples guarding the gate. Jiang Chengxuan and Qin Shenwu stood with their hands behind their backs, smiling warmly as they nodded slightly towards the disciples of the Haoran sect. Their venture into the immortal cave abode had not been made public, but as time passed, the absence of the sect leader could not be completely concealed. Although this did not cause any turmoil, now that everyone had returned safely, it was natural for them to make an appearance before the disciples and elders to convey that all was well. These details, essential for managing a sect, were already well understood by Jiang Chengxuan. As expected, the news of their return quickly spread throughout the sect, and many elders of the Haoran sect came to greet them, all visibly relieved. As elders of the Haoran sect, they were particularly sensitive to the safety and well-being of the sect master and the top powers within the sect. Jiang Chengxuan and Qin Shenwu represented the pinnacle of strength in the Haoran sect, and their safety was paramount. Shortly thereafter, the elders responsible for various affairs within the sect reported the recent happenings to Jiang Chengxuan, who was apprised of the situation and gave his directions. During this time, the entire Floodgate realm had been peaceful, as nearly all key figures from the top forces had ventured into the immortal cave abode in search of opportunities. The Haoran sect continued its steady and robust development during these tranquil months, with many elders and disciples making breakthroughs. Now that Jiang Chengxuan had returned, he arranged rewards and promotions based on their progress in cultivation. With the resources currently available to the Haoran sect, making these arrangements was effortlessly manageable. Efficiently handling various matters from the sect entrance to the main hall, Jiang Chengxuan wrapped up all affairs in just half a day. This efficiency is why sects are typically managed by powerful beings, as their decision-making speed and success rates are impressively high. From the bustling activity upon their return to the quiet of the main hall after everyone dispersed, Jiang Chengxuan finally found a moment to rest, settling down in the sect master's seat to recuperate. Qin Shenwu, Zai Xiangyao, and others had already said their goodbyes and departed. With the gains from the immortal cave abode, they all chose to immediately enter seclusion upon returning to the sect, to tally their gains and consolidate. "Husband, you've worked hard." Shen Ruyan approached Jiang Chengxuan softly. While Jiang Chengxuan and others reassured the sect internally, she had already returned to Thunderclap Valley to report their safety, then hurried to the Haoran sect. There was no other reason but to join Jiang Chengxuan in seclusion to organize the gains from the immortal cave abode. "It's nothing. It was merely a trifle compared to the dangers of the immortal cave abode," Jiang Chengxuan chuckled and shrugged. Having dealt with a round of responsibilities as the sect master, he was quite pleased as these matters, given his ability to foresee and strategize, really were as simple as lifting a hand. "Let's go, wife. It's time for us to enter seclusion as well." Jiang Chengxuan quickly composed himself, took Shen Ruyan's hand, and together they soared out of the main hall towards the highest peaks of the Haoran sect. Returning to the long-unseen cloud mist peak, the spirit beasts of the peak were the first to greet them. With every opportunity they had been granted, these spirit beasts had advanced rapidly, now reaching 7th level, including that spiritual deer. Among the spirit beasts of Cloud Mist Peak, it remained a favored confidant of Jiang Chengxuan. Upon seeing Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan return, it was the first to approach, enjoying the affectionate touches from the two, visibly content. Given the treasures they had brought back from the immortal cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were not stingy. They distributed a portion of their resources to the spirit beasts, allowing them a moment of tranquility before they turned to enter the cave abode. Back in their familiar environment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan felt an immediate sense of peace. Without needing much adjustment, they naturally entered a state of unity with the heavens, a testament to the profound impact of the cave abode for cultivators. The couple proceeded to the deeper parts of the dwelling, activating the protective spells that enveloped the entire area, effectively sealing off any external influences. Finding a comfortable spot, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan sat down together. Almost instantly, Jiang Chengxuan's storage ring flickered with light, and a myriad of treasures began to materialize and settle on the stone table before them. The radiant light from these treasures brightened the entire cave, emitting an intense aura of precious materials and spiritual items. Each item that appeared was of exceptionally high quality, extravagantly arrayed on the table, causing even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to marvel at the sight. Without the inheritance from the immortal, amassing such a collection would take any power in the floodgate realm tens of thousands of years to gather. Yet for Jiang Chengxuan, acquiring these treasures had taken merely a century. This haul alone significantly enhanced the Haoran sect's resources, surpassing the contributions of previous sect leaders. Breathing calmly, Jiang Chengxuan reached out and picked up a radiant fruit from the table, a life essence fruit obtained from the meteorite array. The spirit essence fruit, almost a 9th-level spiritual item, can extend life and shield Tao integration cultivators from heavenly tribulations, Jiang Chengxuan explained as he held the fruit. With a flicker of magical power, he then placed it into a treasure box and stored it in another storage ring. "Although this fruit is extraordinary, we no longer have a use for it. We should leave it for our disciples or within the sect," he decided. "Indeed, that would be best," agreed Shen Ruyan after a brief discussion. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan eagerly reached for another item on the stone table. He brought out an object that was almost a 9th-level material, a celestial crystal. These had been acquired from the meteorite array in the immortal cave abode, where he faced his first test and obtained many such spiritual materials. Celestial crystal, purple chi essence, true sun golden pill, meteorite lotus. Jiang Chengxuan listed each item, noting their uses as if labeling them. The celestial crystal and purple chi essence were aids for cultivation, helpful for breakthroughs, but at their current stage, both were of little use to him and Shen Ruyan, and so he stored them in a separate storage ring. The true sun golden pill and meteorite lotus, though powerful for Tao mastery cultivators and enhancing combat abilities, also felt somewhat redundant to them. Yet, such items of warfare potential were planned to be kept in the sex treasury for future conflicts, capable of suppressing adversaries. In moments, 5 top spiritual materials were sorted by Jiang Chengxuan. His gaze then returned to the stone table where a very pale, translucent fruit lay, which he picked up. This is the elemental fruit of wind, allowing the consumer to master the Tao of wind. As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan reached again, picking up a fiery red fruit and a serene blue one from the table. Elemental fruit of fire, elemental fruit of water. These were rewards from his battle against the 4 element titans in the immortal cave abode, where he had defeated them single-handedly. The elemental fruit of thunder has already been absorbed by Shen Ruyan, aiding her breakthrough to Tao mastery. Fire and water elements are part of the 5, useful to me. How about this wind elemental fruit, my dear, does it interest you? He asked, looking at Shen Ruyan. With their relationship, Shen Ruyan did not hesitate. Wind and thunder elements can complement and enhance each other. Mastering it could significantly increase my combat capabilities. Thank you, my husband. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan kept the fruits of fire and water for himself, and the wind fruit was passed to Shen Ruyan. Next up is this item. After rummaging through his storage ring, his eyes lit up, and with a flicker of light from his hand, a new item appeared, instantly filling the cave with vibrant life. Before them stood an ethereal pine tree, adorned with a fruit radiating pure energy. Even Shen Ruyan felt the extraordinariness of the item. It's a 9th-level supreme spiritual fruit in its tree, capable of enhancing the cultivation of a Mahayana Dailord, solidifying Tao rules and realms. Jiang Chengxuan announced with evident joy. This was his prize from snatching it from the jaws of 2 9th-level beasts, a feat that marked one of the most perilous moments within the immortal cave abode. Such an item was still greatly beneficial to both, especially if they aspired to reach the peak of Mahayana. The power of this fruit was critical. This supreme 9th-level fruit is immensely useful to us, and we need to find a way to plant this tree within our Heoran sect. Planting this tree within the Heoran sect was Jiang Chengxuan's ambition. Initially, bringing it back was his limit. However, with the scriptures and Jade slips from immortal Eastern River, he was confident. With immortal Eastern River's methods, planting this tree was a mere gesture. With such a tree, the entire Heoran sect would undergo transformative changes, a feat no less significant than the sect's founding. Because of this tree and its infinite 9th-level fruits, the Heoran sect would inevitably have countless great Tao sages arise from its ranks. The potential of such an item was terrifying. Merely by possessing it, the Heoran sect could dominate the entire floodgate realm. My husband, I must congratulate the Heoran sect in advance, Shen Ruyan joked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Jiang Chengxuan also smiled, carefully storing the precious item. Then, with a sweep of his hand, more spiritual lights flickered, and powerful presences filled the cave. Massive tails, eyes, mysterious scales, and other parts of beasts along with sharp spines and crystal marrows, various materials, each radiating tremendously powerful fluctuations, possessing the aura of great accomplishment. These are the materials from 2 9th-level beasts, forming a solid foundation for future crafting of arcane treasures. Jiang Chengxuan explained cheerfully, somewhat showing off in front of Shen Ruyan. In the past, he had maneuvered through 2 9th-level beasts comparable to Dailords, ultimately risking his life to slay them both. Such feats, if recorded in the annals of the Floodgate Realm's history, would be regarded as unprecedented and unrivaled. These beings are challenging to deal with even now. You took quite the risk, Shen Ruyan admonished him lightly, her concern evident in her tone. Clearly, she still felt uneasy about Jiang Chengxuan's near-fatal encounter. Jiang Chengxuan could only laugh it off, attempting to mask his embarrassment. I am well aware that you have always been brave and strategic, my husband. This achievement is truly unmatched, though it still scares me, Shen Ruyan continued, gently holding Jiang Chengxuan's hand and leaning against his shoulder. Jiang Chengxuan remained silent, wrapping his arm around his spouse's shoulder in a comforting embrace. Such moments of deep affection were rare in the world of cultivation, where feelings often took a backseat to the pursuit of power and longevity. Understanding each other's emotions, they briefly indulged in this rare display of affection before moving on to continue their inventory of the treasures they had acquired. What remains now are the items left by immortal Eastern River. Jiang Chengxuan's voice echoed in the cave, tinged with a hint of melancholy. After briefly taking stock of their gains from the immortal cave abode, the stone table before Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had been swept clean, leaving only an ancient and majestic storage ring quietly in place. Speaking of immortal eastern rivers past days after so long, Jiang Chengxuan still felt a deep connection. Involuntarily, the image of immortal red flame reappeared in his mind, perhaps influenced by the oath of Tao Heart. Facing him, Jiang Chengxuan always felt a mix of pressure and motivation. Like a towering mountain blocking his path, it did not make him want to retreat, but rather ignited a fighting spirit within him. The scrolls and jade slips left by immortal Eastern River are indeed as vast as a sea of literature, said Shen Ruyan, as she manifested the rule of life and death and delved into the ring, speaking slowly. This storage ring could be said to be their greatest treasure from their journey to the immortal cave abode. It contained almost exclusively records about the immortal realm and the existence of ascension stones, seemingly the only treasures that immortal Eastern River truly valued. The rest of the materials and spiritual items were scattered throughout the immortal cave abode as setups and opportunities, and perhaps, in the distant Jade Light immortal domain or the Golden Cloud immortal sect, immortal Eastern River's real collection might still remain. Interested by the preserved tomes of immortal Eastern River, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan each took out several volumes, engrossed in their reading. These writings included perceptions and secrets about states beyond that of an immortal, such as understanding the great Tao, transformations of dharmic power, and insights into realms, each a spark of inspiration for Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. For cultivators at the level of Tao mastery, even a few words from an immortal could serve as profound maxims. Having sorted through their findings, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan gradually entered a state of cultivation. Moments later, leveraging the sudden insights brought about by the immortal's jade slips, they found secluded spots within the cave to begin closed-door cultivation, assimilating their recent epiphanies. Jiang Chengxuan, now at the peak of Tao mastery, did not plan to directly attempt a breakthrough to Mahayana. He aimed first to perfect the various Tao rules within him and reach a half step into Mahayana. With ample resources at his disposal, such a step was clearly not too difficult. With sufficient preparation, it was natural to execute each step perfectly, aligning with his character of steady progress. Jiang Chengxuan sat cross-legged, deeply focused. He manifested the elemental forces of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth around him, forming a harmonious aura. The next moment, with a flash of light in his hand, two Tao fruits appeared in his palm, the fruits of fire and water elements. With the power of these fruits, he could easily bring the powers of water and fire to their peaks, and using these two forces as a catalyst, fully master the five elements. Thinking thus, he did so. The five elements enveloped him, and both the water and fire Tao forces erupted, causing phenomena of tsunamis and volcanic eruptions. The two Tao fruits, cast by Jiang Chengxuan, floated in the void, gradually melting away and releasing a continuous stream of water and fire Tao forces. Streams of red and blue energy, easily manipulated by Jiang Chengxuan, spread throughout the five elements world, coloring the dome red and the ground beneath flooded with endless water. These Tao fruits' powers were not so gentle, especially as they were from opposing forces. Yet, for Jiang Chengxuan at this stage, absorbing both forces simultaneously was effortless. After all, he had grasped the integration of even more complex Tao like life and death. By comparison, the discord between water and fire seemed too trivial. Moreover, the five elements Tao, having accompanied him the longest and fully comprehended, needed only these fruits to break the final barrier. With the insertion of the Tao fruits' dual forces, he quickly shattered this bottleneck. The five elements changed dramatically, powered by the robust forces of water and fire, each growing more potent. Yet all this was under Jiang Chengxuan's meticulous control. The five elements Tao cycled through its phases within the chaos, naturally finding a profound harmony. His mastery of the five elements Tao was achieved in just a moment. Simultaneously, in another part of the cave, Shen Ruyan also absorbed the wind element Tao fruit. Streams of fierce wind were channeled into the thunder, roaring incessantly, as if summoning a storm. The already violent thunder became even more destructive under the influence of the wind element Tao, while simultaneously, the Tao of life and death also flowed ceaselessly. The introduction of the wind seemed to harmonize the furious, silent thunder and the Tao of life and death, infusing a balancing force between them. However, this did not weaken their powers. Instead, within the swirling winds, both Taos seamlessly merged, hinting at the emergence of a new, profound rule. Clearly, the wind element Tao fruit Jiang Chengxuan had given was a delightful surprise to Shen Ruyan. With the enhancements from various insights, she gradually entered a state of enlightenment, her realm soaring. Indeed, this trip to the immortal cave abode was particularly fruitful for Shen Ruyan. Within the legacy of immortal Eastern River, she had acquired the rules of life and death, and during her comprehension of these rules, she also enhanced her understanding of other Tao rules. This intangible gain was precious, undoubtedly elevating her talents. Simultaneously, in terms of Tao heart, Shen Ruyan also underwent significant refinement. The opportunities of this adventure allowed her, who was originally falling behind, to catch up to Jiang Chengxuan's pace dramatically. Thus, it could be said that Shen Ruyan was the primary beneficiary of the immortal cave abode. In comparison, Jiang Chengxuan merely shortened his cultivation time, paving his way towards the immortal realm. As for him, with a cultivation achievement system in place, acquiring any feat was merely a matter of time. As for their Shifu, Qin Shenwu, it goes without saying that his greatest gain was the existence of the Ascension Stone, which provided him with the confidence to enter the immortal realm, something he had little hope for previously. Chapter 1047, The New Divine Power, the Void Wheel of Rules. In the Haoran sect, at the Cloud Mist Peak, time in the cave abode flows indifferently to the changes of seasons outside, with the years passing relentlessly. It has been 100 years since Jiang Chengxuan and others returned from the immortal cave abode and entered seclusion. Throughout these centuries, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan have not left their meditation, but the phenomena of Tao rules at Cloud Mist Peak are continuously manifested, creating a mysterious spectacle. Sometimes, lights of the 5 elements enshroud the peak, transforming it into a multicolored divine mountain visible from the entire region. At other times, the peak appears as an ink painting with black and white forces, as if painted by an immortal. Occasionally, thunderstorms descend from the heavens, with black and white clouds gathering into storms, as if the sky itself might fall. The phenomena at Cloud Mist Peak are enduring and awe-inspiring, drawing the eyes of the sect members whenever they have leisure time, and they regard it as a magnificent sight. At a certain training platform in the Haoran sect, disciples are sparring and exchanging insights. The area below the platform buzzes with noise as disciples in Haoran robes watch the fight intently. Among them, a woman stands out, commanding the 5 elements with divine brilliance. She is Jiang Anren, the disciple of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. She and her opponent, both manifesting their domains, unleash astonishing power, nearly reaching the level of Tao fusion. This is merely a contest among the younger generation of the Haoran sect, yet it has already reached such levels, reflecting the sect's development over the years. In the arena, Jiang Anren dominates her opponent with ease, her domain manifesting various divine powers. Amidst the cheers of numerous admirers, she unleashes a beam of 5 elements light, decisively defeating her opponent with grace and poise. Her performance elicits cheers from many disciples and praise from the elders, enhancing her reputation immensely. At that moment, watching Jiang Anren, many naturally remember the legendary figure of the Haoran sect, Jiang Chengxuan, who has been in seclusion for 100 years. Despite his century-long absence, no one has forgotten his presence or his strength, and everyone speculates whether he might advance further this time. If so, the Haoran sect might soon boast 2 Mahayana Dailords, creating a spectacle for all to behold. Everyone in the sect looks forward to this possibility. Jiang Anren, standing alone on the high platform, gazes towards Cloud Mist Peak, her eyes revealing deep longing. But the interest in Jiang Chengxuan's seclusion is not limited to the Haoran sect. After numerous dangers and hardships, those who entered the survival passage of the immortal cave abode have finally returned to the floodgate realm. Leaders of the Pantheon sect, Infinite sect, and Divine Shadow Gate, still shaken by their experiences, have returned to their respective sects. Only then do they learn that Jiang Chengxuan and his group had returned to the Haoran sect 100 years ago. For a moment, many Dailords are stunned, their feelings mixed. They could never have imagined that the collapse of the immortal cave abode was essentially triggered by Jiang Chengxuan. This Haoran sect master, his luck is truly consistent, is the only way they can describe Jiang Chengxuan and others' fortune. These individuals had entered the survival passage as the cave collapsed, and were transported to a remote other realm after a lengthy journey. As outsiders there, they faced numerous dangers, battling local cultivators and competing for resources to restore their strength, while also struggling under the suppression of that realm's destiny to find a way back. Thanks to the protection of a peak Daelord and the fortunes they carried from the immortal cave abode, they managed to return. Otherwise, it is likely none would have survived. Hence, upon hearing that Jiang Chengxuan and his party had returned a century ago, numerous sect leaders felt a sense of injustice in their hearts, lamenting the unfairness of fate. Particularly, Daelord Skeleton and Daelord Phantom Ghost, who had managed to return to the Floodgate realm, found their cultivation greatly diminished. After repeated devastations, it's possible they will never recover to their full strength. This situation has undoubtedly deepened their hatred towards the Haoran sect to a point of no return. Yet upon hearing of Jiang Chengxuan's century-long seclusion, they can only keep their feelings hidden. The Daelords of various sects, upon learning of Jiang Chengxuan's seclusion, immediately understand that the Haoran sect's group must have gained significant opportunities within the immortal cave abode. It's very likely that, in the near future, the Haoran sect will establish itself as the biggest sect in the Floodgate realm. Such speculations stir a whirlwind of emotions among many, and they watch the developments regarding Jiang Chengxuan's seclusion with intense interest. Meanwhile, back in the Cloud Mist Peak's cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan continue to delve into and assimilate their insights, making steady progress in their cultivation. At this point, Jiang Chengxuan has completely mastered the rules of the 5 elements, samsara, and life and death Tao. These powerful forces have become incredibly stable within him, thanks to the heritage of immortal Eastern River which he has been meticulously studying. Time passes, and hundreds more years slip by. Jiang Chengxuan sits in meditation like a stone Buddha, undisturbed for centuries, his presence devoid of any overt manifestation of Tao rules. This is not to suggest any flaw in his cultivation, but rather the opposite. At this stage, Jiang Chengxuan has thoroughly comprehended and unified the rules of life and death, samsara, and the 5 elements, returning to a state of simplicity and purity. Even a Daelord would be unable to discern his cultivation level unless he chose to reveal it himself. Such is the depth of his mastery. Life and death, samsara, and the 5 elements are now completely under his control. When he manifests his power, a profound aura of nothingness expands from him, enveloping him in a barrier of void where all rules are nullified, capable of negating all forms of energy. This new divine power, which Jiang Chengxuan has named the Void Wheel of Rules, harnesses the power of nothingness to consume everything. Inspired by the final desperate attack of the 9th-level beasts he once faced, this technique is even more formidable. The Void Wheel of Rules utilizes the cyclic forces of the 5 elements, life and death, and samsara to absorb all existence instantaneously, forcibly drawing everything into a cycle of obliteration. Moreover, this force of nothingness is continuously self-sustaining and completely controllable by Jiang Chengxuan. After a century of intense cultivation, Jiang Chengxuan had mastered more than just one divine power. The numerous perils he faced in the immortal cave abode had sparked profound insights, especially the 7 kills array, which contained 7 types of killing techniques modified by Eastern River. Each technique, upon reflection, deepened Jiang Chengxuan's understanding of divine powers. With a sparkle in his eyes, Jiang Chengxuan, in a single breath, retracted the void wheel of rule into his body, a terrifying power he now commanded with ease. Next, he immediately manifested another Tao rule and began to practice a newly comprehended divine power. From within him burst forth a 5-colored divine light, creating 5 extremely bright singularities in the void. Each point was saturated with pure elemental power, causing the surrounding void to twist. In the next moment, as the 5 colors whirled in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes, the 5 extreme stars rapidly evolved. Strands of pure 5 elements energy rooted themselves in the cracks of the void. In the blink of an eye, they grew into 5 lotus flowers of glassy appearance, each opening and closing, moving and still, in virtual and real interplay, emanating a profound sense of annihilation. This technique, named the 5-color annihilation lotus, was derived by blending the blood lotus from the 7 kills array. Each of the 5 lotus flowers represented the pure power of one of the 5 elements. Linked together, rooted in the void, they rendered their target immobile. When the 5 lotuses converged, they triggered a chaotic inversion of the 5 elements, generating terrifying destructive power. This was not merely a sum of 5 powers but a mutually triggering, endless chain reaction. Previously, Jiang Chengxuan's manipulation of the 5 elements was always in accordance with their natural cycle, endlessly generating life. However, this technique reversed the 5 elements, taking their conflict and annihilation to the extreme. It proved his complete mastery over the 5 elements and served as a means to deepen his understanding of these forces. His task was to repeatedly practice these divine powers, pushing his understanding of the Tao rules to the pinnacle. With each inhalation and exhalation, the divine lotuses were absorbed back into him. The force of the 5 elements gradually dissipated, revealing the black and white hues of the life-death rule that followed. This rule, which Jiang Chengxuan had acquired most recently, was no less comprehended by him than any other. It was one of the strongest Tao rules mastered by Eastern River, the immortal. Therefore, in the archives left by Eastern River, the analysis and enlightenment of the life-death rule were the most detailed and profound. With such a legacy to guide him, Jiang Chengxuan could master this rule with less effort. As he breathed, invisible ripples spread from him, dissolving any residual Tao force in the void and any impurities produced during cultivation into nothingness. This technique, named shedding life, restored everything it touched to its original nascent state. In the 7 kills array, it was this technique that had purified the power of absolute defense talismans, plunging him into a state between life and death. This technique, meticulously recorded by Eastern River in one of the Jade scrolls, was discovered by Jiang Chengxuan, who then learned it in its entirety. It employed the power of the life-death rule to reverse life and death, restoring all changes to their origin. To fully master this technique required a tremendous power of deduction involving complex cycles of karma. Yet, Jiang Chengxuan met all these conditions perfectly. In fact, this technique seemed tailor-made for him. As he continually evolved these 3 divine powers, his understanding of the 3 major Tao rules also climbed towards their pinnacle. This was an extremely lengthy process, akin to water carving through stone or sand accumulating into a tower. To achieve Mahayana, one must push all Tao rules to their limits without neglecting any. Otherwise, one must abandon them, for if not, upon achieving the Tao, flaws would remain, causing leaks that could make further progress as challenging as ascending to the heavens. Therefore, in the realm where one controlled the Tao, few cultivators managed multiple Tao rules. Even though mastering an additional rule could enhance one's combat abilities, few chose this path. This was not only because of the conflicting nature of the rules, which made them difficult to integrate, but also because each additional rule significantly increased the difficulty of breaking through to Mahayana later on. Thus, typically, cultivators would streamline their rules before attempting Mahayana, discarding any superfluous understandings of the Tao to focus solely on a singular, ultimate path. This process was known as Tao stripping. However, Jiang Chengxuan had no intentions of doing so. For him, his ambitions extended far beyond merely achieving Mahayana. Becoming an immortal was not enough to satisfy him. His gaze was always set on the most distant horizons. Even the stage of true immortal was not sufficient to halt his progress. Not even the goal of avenging the Crimson Fire immortal could make him compromise his potential for the sake of caution. Jiang Chengxuan believed in his own intuitive understanding. In his past cultivation journey, he had leveraged opportunities to shorten countless years, surpassing everyone else. Now, he was ready to invest whatever time necessary to refine his foundation above that of an immortal, striving to make it the strongest and best rather than the most stable. This path, balancing the strongest against the safest, meant that choosing the most secure path would equate to mediocrity, while the strongest path would entail great risks and challenges. Yet Jiang Chengxuan was never one to fear challenges. What he feared more was becoming mediocre, a state he had experienced too often in the past. Thus, Jiang Chengxuan decided not to discard any of the Tao rules he mastered, whether it was the 5 elements, the cycle of samsara, or the life-death rule. Instead, he continuously refined them, sitting like a stone Buddha, letting time flow by meaninglessly. Decades turned into centuries as Jiang Chengxuan discarded all else, letting the endless passage of time become insignificant. 100 years, 500 years, 800 years, 1,000 years. In the blink of an eye, a millennium passed within this endless cultivation, an exceedingly long period even for cultivators. At the end of this 1,000-year ordeal, Jiang Chengxuan's realm finally reached the brink of Mahayana, with all his Tao rules perfected and nearing the threshold of the next great stage. With a few relaxed breaths, Jiang Chengxuan unhesitatingly took the final step. In that moment, various phenomena manifested, and even the entire cloud mist peak felt the impact, becoming incredibly ethereal. Sometimes the five-colored divine lotus appeared, and at other times a river of nothingness flowed, with the cosmos and stars being born and fading away. After 1,000 years, the cloud mist peak of the Haoran sect was once again stirring, causing excitement within the sect. Zhang Anren and the sect elders, who had been closely monitoring Cloud Mist Peak, floated up and observed the emerging phenomena from afar, their minds filled with myriad thoughts. The phenomena emanating from Cloud Mist Peak were undoubtedly stronger than those from 1,000 years ago, having evolved to levels that even the elders could not clearly discern. This clearly indicated a positive development. Their sect master's power had been continuously increasing during this time. However, despite the long-awaited changes, there was no sign that he planned to emerge from seclusion soon. "It seems that the sect master is not yet ready to come out," said Leng Yuehua, a sect elder who had been acquainted with Jiang Chengxuan, with a hint of regret. The other members nodded in agreement, their faces slowly losing the look of anticipation. "Wuru," murmured Jiang Anren, as her feelings of longing gradually subsided. Eventually, everyone dispersed, and the event did not cause any significant disturbances within the Haoran sect. Meanwhile, inside the cave on Cloud Mist Peak, Jiang Chengxuan's aura had reached its peak, touching an invisible barrier. This barrier was the bottleneck of Mahayana, a threshold he had been preparing to breach for 1,000 years. In the next moment, a glimmer of light appeared in his hand, revealing a crystal-colored fruit brimming with a rich essence of life, which instantly filled the entire cave. This spirit fruit, perfectly preserved over the millennia, was crucial for Jiang Chengxuan's breakthrough. Without hesitation, he used a special technique to split the fruit in half, intending to use only one part for himself and save the rest for Shen Ruyan's breakthrough. His goal was not to use the fruit to increase his cultivation level, but to leverage its pure energy as a catalyst to break through the bottleneck. As he consumed the spirit fruit, its pure primordial spirit chi burst forth within him, causing his dharmic power to surge to a new level. Endless waves of energy coursed through his body, rushing towards the bottleneck. The impact was so intense that even Jiang Chengxuan, with his robust physique, could not help but tremble. Nevertheless, he continued to absorb the power of the fruit relentlessly, channeling it back and forth within his body, creating an endless cycle. With each cycle, he launched a resolute assault on the barrier of Mahayana. Each strand of energy from the spirit fruit cycled through his body hundreds of times, each cycle propelling a new assault. During this process, he meticulously controlled all his dharmic power to ensure each impact was strong enough to shake the bottleneck. The difficulty of this task was comparable to clashing with an opponent of Mahayana realm, and he could not afford to pause even for a moment lest all his efforts be wasted. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan lost count of how many times he had challenged the bottleneck, but the spirit fruit within him was nearly depleted, and his aura was no longer as stable as before. Realm of Mahayana, break. With a roar, a sudden insight struck him, and his waning dharmic power surged once more, reaching a new peak and fiercely impacting the bottleneck. At that moment, a sound like a cracking silver bottle echoed invisibly, and Jiang Chengxuan's aura exploded, rising step by step. Endless spiritual chi, like dragons, roared as it surged into his body unceasingly. Outside Cloud Mist Peak, new phenomena appeared as massive amounts of spiritual chi were drawn towards it, creating a huge vacuum area at the summit. This terrifying spectacle caught everyone's attention, but the aftershocks were so intense that no one could approach, only watch from afar. Fortunately, the summit of Cloud Mist Peak, already deep in the clouds, was not adversely affected thanks to the sect's protective arrays. As the spectacle grew more intense, it became evident to the sect's powerful figures across the region. Some elders immediately understood that this was a sign of someone attempting a breakthrough. Combining recent reports, there was only one possibility. It was the sect master of the Haoran sect trying to advance to Mahayana. This speculation set the entire continent abuzz. Had the Haoran sect truly defied the heavens to achieve such rapid advancement within just a millennium? As countless eyes focused on the Haoran sect, feelings of awe, envy, and frenzy mingled. Unaware of the external attention, Jiang Chengxuan, having achieved a breakthrough in his realm, wasted no time in manifesting his Tao rules to complete the transformation of his path. To truly achieve Mahayana, As the name implies, one must bring their personal Tao rules to the ultimate peak within this realm. The first step, which Jiang Chengxuan had just completed, involved pushing his Tao rules to their zenith. The next step was to forcibly integrate his Tao into the universe, making them a part of the world itself. Only by doing this could a cultivator of Mahayana truly elevate their existence to align with the cosmos, enabling them to manipulate the spiritual chi between heaven and earth effortlessly. Moreover, once a Tao rule becomes interwoven with the fabric of the universe, it leaves a mark of this world on the cultivator. This not only allows them to harness the mysterious powers of cosmic rules without obstruction, but also significantly amplifies their abilities. However, such an act of integrating Tao into the universe is akin to seizing the creative forces of nature, a profoundly defiant act against the cosmic order. Thus, achieving Mahayana often provokes celestial tribulations, a manifestation of the universe's will attempting to thwart this defiance. Only by overcoming these tribulations and gaining recognition from the universe can one truly be considered a Mahayana Tao Lord. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan pushed his 5 elements Tao rule to its limit. His entire being shimmered with a prismatic glow, resembling a body of crystal representing the 5 elements. As he began to merge his Tao with the universe, the inherent laws of the cosmos and its will became apparent to him. Jiang Chengxuan, embodying his Tao, merged his essence into the cosmos, and in an instant, a strange visual realm appeared in his mind's eye, as if he had been pulled into a bizarre world. Within this realm, Jiang Chengxuan felt countless gazes fixated on him, the surrounding vista bursting with flowing lights and dazzling, magical colors. Looking up, Jiang Chengxuan saw nothing but swirling currents of energy, as if someone had overturned an infinite vat of dye over the floodgate realm. He understood that this was the world of Tao, or, more precisely, the inner workings of the world's will. The world's will could manifest in any form, its appearance before him depending entirely on how he perceived it. At this moment, as Jiang Chengxuan merged his Tao with the cosmos to seize its essence, what he observed was a fusion of countless Taos. As his Tao penetrated this world, the surrounding forces of Tao began to grow turbulent. The colors around him twisted, and suddenly, a giant face of rage loomed before him. It appeared like a wrathful deity, a colossal figure clad in heavy armor, wielding the chaotic power of numerous rules, unrelentingly slamming towards Jiang Chengxuan. As it struck, a terrifying presence crushed down from the void, the will of heaven and earth imposing its might on the beings of this realm. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan was well prepared for this confrontation. His Tao rules of samsara and life and death surged forth, cloaking him, as he countered the manifestation of the world's will. In the moment of his counterattack, high above in the heavens, a mysterious rune appeared, emitting a profound light that shone upon Jiang Chengxuan's head, slowly drawing him upwards. This development brought a spark of joy to Jiang Chengxuan. He knew that the rules of this world had recognized his Tao, bestowing upon him its mark. As long as he could merge with this mark successfully, his Tao would officially become a part of the cosmic Tao. However, all this was predicated on his ability to withstand the opposition of the world's will until the arrival of the mark. Boom! Confronting the avatar of the world's will, Jiang Chengxuan wielded the power of his 3 great Taos to defend himself. Each collision between them was a pure clash of rules. Jiang Chengxuan's mastery of his Tao rules, each honed to the pinnacle of high level, was sufficient to hold its ground against the fusion of countless rules. As the world's will exerted its fierce suppression, the mark of the world above was gradually drawn down. Bathed in the light of this beckoning, Jiang Chengxuan fought more vigorously, his body and Tao blending, battling the manifestation of the world's will to its peak. The entire realm of Tao was thoroughly disrupted by their struggle, resembling a colorful black hole. As time passed, Jiang Chengxuan remained unyielding, the cosmic mark almost within reach. The realm of Mahayana was now just a step away. But at that moment, a drastic change occurred. The world's will could no longer remain idle. The giant figure of the Tao suddenly vanished into the void, leaving behind emptiness. Instantly, all the surrounding forces of Tao crazily surged towards that void. Roar! A terrifying aura erupted, and an immense dragon's head of vibrant colors suddenly roared out from it. The formidable nature of the world's will was unmistakably displayed at this moment. Even someone as resolute as Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but tremble inwardly, his expression turning grave. The oppressive force emanating from the dragon far exceeded the previous giant by more than tenfold. Its ancient, vast, and ruthless presence embodying the world's indifferent will that regards all beings as mere straws. Typically, a cultivator's breakthrough does not provoke such a violent extermination impulse from the world's will. After all beings are the products of the world. Even those ascending within the realm naturally integrate into it. The world's will of a plane like the floodgate realm lacks emotion or thought. Its obstruction of a cultivator's ascension is purely instinctive. Only a cultivator like Jiang Chengxuan, who possesses multiple high-order Taos seeking breakthrough, could trigger such a strong innate reaction from the world's will. In an instant, the dragon of Tao mercilessly struck down, and Jiang Chengxuan deployed his Tao power in defense. Yet, this collision immediately caused fissures in his otherwise flawless Tao. Shocked by the fierce resistance of the world's will, Jiang Chengxuan realized the terrifying extent of its opposition. But now, there was no turning back. If he could not endure until the arrival of the cosmic mark, only demise awaited him. Faced with a life-and-death crisis, Jiang Chengxuan held nothing back, unleashing all his Tao powers, transforming into a colossal deity of Tao to strike back with a mighty punch. The clash between them plunged the world into a moment of darkness. Amid the crackling sounds, Jiang Chengxuan's Taos suffered further fractures. Clearly, even high-order Taos like life and death, five elements, and samsara couldn't withstand unscathed when pitted against the incarnation of the world's collective Taos. Yet at that critical juncture, Jiang Chengxuan felt no inclination to retreat. Only through a relentless fight could there be a chance for salvation. A terrifying aura erupted completely in that moment, creating a storm of Taos that seemed poised to overturn the entire world. This upheaval, born from their conflict, was faintly perceived by other cultivators throughout the floodgate realm. The world itself seemed inexplicably agitated. Thunderous booms resonated over and over again. In this battle, Jiang Chengxuan exhausted every ounce of his strength, his output surpassing even that of typical great Tao lords. However, he faced the suppression of the world's will, and without the world's mark's approval, he couldn't achieve true Tao fulfillment. Time seemed to stretch indefinitely. Just as Jiang Chengxuan's painstakingly cultivated Taos were on the brink of shattering completely, the guiding light above his head finally brought the world's mark down, integrating it into his Tao body. A profound, mysterious hum resounded, and Jiang Chengxuan's aura, which was on the verge of dissipating, suddenly surged, now imbued with a distinctly new essence. The world's mark merged with his Taos of the five elements, life and death, and samsara. In a single breath, it fully repaired his nearly shattered Taos. The force of his Taos roared and then slowly dissolved into the cosmos. The once oppressive world now felt incredibly familiar to him. The powers of Jiang Chengxuan's three Taos exploded, spreading out and successfully integrating into the cosmic Taos of this realm. In an instant, they extended boundlessly, reaching Mahayana. Without a moment to rejoice, Jiang Chengxuan's consciousness was abruptly pulled back into the cave abode. At this moment, his perception of the world had radically transformed. If previously he had felt like a sailor adrift at sea, now, within the floodgate realm, he was like a fish in water. Every thread of energy in the void was distinctly perceivable to him. Every force of Tao could be effortlessly manifested and manipulated. Perhaps this is what it feels like to be a child of the cultivation world, Jiang Chengxuan mused, his eyes sparkling with insight. However, there is one last challenge. With his newfound realm of Mahayana, Jiang Chengxuan sensed a surge of ferocity in the air. Mysterious red lightning flickered in and out of existence in the void, unmistakably signaling the imminent arrival of his human tribulation. Although he had secured the world's mark, the final admonishment and warning from the cosmos were still due to arrive. Indeed, this red lightning had first manifested during his forceful breakthrough in the seventh level of heavenly calculation technique within the immortal cave abode. Back then, it was obscured by the karma of an earth immortal, preventing the tribulation from descending. At that time, Jiang Chengxuan could not detect its presence through his aura alone, but now, even before the tribulation had begun, he was already able to predict its arrival. Such was the difference between the realms of Mahayana and Tao mastery. Facing the impending tribulation, Jiang Chengxuan remained composed. He glanced around the cave. Shen Ruyan was still deep in cultivation, and no preparations had been made in the cave abode to defend against the tribulation, thus it was not suitable as the site for his ordeal. Previously, his Shifu, Qin Shenwu, had faced great danger during his tribulation, only surviving with the aid of a natural array's power, and subsequently achieving Mahayana. However, that natural formation had shattered in the immortal cave abode while defending against the 7 kills array. Jiang Chengxuan could not afford to rely on it again for his tribulation. Moreover, he had a premonition that the tribulation he was about to face would likely be far more terrifying than what Qin Shenwu had encountered, possibly bringing disaster to the entire Heoran sect. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan had already prepared a location for the tribulation. Without further hesitation, he manifested his Tao power and drew a circular gateway in the void. A profound and chaotic gate appeared before him, leading to a place beyond this domain. Even having achieved the realm of Mahayana, Jiang Chengxuan was still capable of traversing the outer realms on his own, and that location was precisely where he had planned to face his tribulation. There, he would not have to worry about the destructive power of the tribulation, and no one would be able to locate and disturb him. His enemies were numerous. Not only various demonic cults, but also righteous sects like the Qiankun Hall could complicate his tribulation. Thunder rumbled in the void, as if dragons were roaring. Knowing that there was no time to waste, Jiang Chengxuan stepped through the gate without hesitation. The boundless outer world unfolded before him as the gate behind him slowly closed. In this vast domain, only Jiang Chengxuan's presence remained. He swiftly adjusted himself to his peak condition amidst the surrounding chaos. Streaks of red lightning began to flash more visibly. Bits of red lightning flickered and spread, and in an instant, as Jiang Chengxuan opened his eyes, he found himself trapped within a massive cage constructed of red lightning. The aura of the red lightning was terrifyingly violent, preventing even the chaotic essence from penetrating. An incredibly bizarre scene unfolded. Instead of striking immediately, the red lightning explosively entwined and slowly formed a shape. It was a figure identical to Jiang Chengxuan himself, or rather, a red lightning avatar of him. Facing Jiang Chengxuan, the duplicate wore a sinister smile, and in the next moment it unleashed a blast of Tao power strikingly similar to his, hurtling towards him. This scene caused Jiang Chengxuan's heart to tremble. This bizarre red tribulation could not only mimic his power and aura, but his fighting style as well. Battling an opponent who fully understood his own tactics was a rare and daunting experience for Jiang Chengxuan. As the two exchanged blows, the thunder of their battle caused realms to collapse, creating voids of nothingness. Facing an adversary capable of perfectly anticipating his moves, Jiang Chengxuan found the battle exceedingly difficult. The opponent not only possessed an additional kind of power, but was also intimately familiar with his combat style. Every move Jiang Chengxuan made was preemptively countered, all his strategies thwarted. It felt as though he was fighting an opponent capable of reading his mind. The battle continued to the point where stars were destroyed and universes collapsed. Even when driven to the brink, Jiang Chengxuan sustained severe injuries and nearly perished. However, at the last moment, he completely abandoned all his past techniques and merged all his moves and powers into a seamless whole, achieving a state of absolute freedom and mastery. At the brink of death, he managed to disrupt the red lightning avatar's mimicry, overcoming his past self and annihilating all the red lightning. Through destruction came creation. As the last traces of red lightning dissipated into the void, the entire outer realm fell back into darkness. Only fragments of destroyed worlds and terrifying voids remained as evidence of the cataclysm. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan sat meditating in the void, radiating an aura of profound freedom. His dharmic power, Tao rule, and realm had all reached Mahayana. After a millennium, Jiang Chengxuan's path had finally reached its culmination. In the boundless and profound outer realm, Jiang Chengxuan stood alone with his hands behind his back, transcending the mundane, entering a state of selflessness. Behind him, the 3 great Tao of the 5 elements, life and death and samsara manifested, swirling in the void around him, their divine light majestic and domineering, suppressing the chaos. Having crushed the final tribulation of lightning, Jiang Chengxuan was slowly assimilating the enlightenment gained from that battle of life and death. With the mysterious forces contained in the tribulation now augmenting him, he had formally stepped into a Mahayana Dailord. Moments later, Jiang Chengxuan opened his eyes, gazing upon the ravaged landscape of the outer realm, feeling a sense of grandeur. This place was reserved for those at Mahayana, beyond the reach of those below, a realm only the most powerful could appreciate the profound darkness and its elegance. Feeling his power, now 100 times greater both in quantity and quality than when he was in the realm of controlling the Tao, Jiang Chengxuan's heart surged with emotions, filled with immense pride. In the past, during the great battle against the three foreign races in the Outer Realm, it was here that Daelords of various realms fought. The fates of the human and foreign races were determined by these battles, with the human race eventually prevailing while the others fell into ruin. Back then, Jiang Chengxuan could only look up to those battles from within the floodgate realm, entrusting his fate to the powerful beings of his race. He had not even been qualified to witness the clash of Mahayana Daelords. But now, after a millennium, he was capable of standing toe-to-toe with any Daelord, traversing the outer realm with a snap of his fingers, looking down upon all that existed within the floodgate realm. He thought to himself that perhaps this was the true meaning of cultivation, to tread everything underfoot, to take in every scene that others find unreachable, and to hold it within his gaze. But, unbeknownst to others, Jiang Chengxuan, who had broken through to the Mahayana, quietly returned to his cave abode on Cloud Mist Peak. The ordeal of his tribulation had vanished without a trace, as if it had been but a dream. Choosing not to emerge from seclusion, Jiang Chengxuan decided to first stabilize his realm and protect Shen Ruyan until she too could break through. The couple would then emerge together from seclusion. He had several reasons for this decision. Firstly, the Haoran sect no longer needed the presence of a Mahayana Daelord to bolster its reputation, as it already had Qin Shenwu and no longer needed to establish its authority. Secondly, stabilizing his realm was his primary concern, with all other matters secondary. Thirdly, there was Shen Ruyan. Knowing the dangers he had faced during his own breakthrough, and the tribulations that nearly led to his demise, protecting Shen Ruyan was an imperative. He sensed that Shen Ruyan was not far from reaching the Mahayana herself, and faced no significant obstacles in her breakthrough. With these thoughts in mind, Jiang Chengxuan sat down in his cave abode and began cycling his Tao powers, repeatedly stabilizing his aura. After ascending to the Mahayana Daelord status, Jiang Chengxuan felt a profound connection with the world, a subtle bond that explained why, during times of calamity, other Mahayana Daelords would forcefully defend their realms. This was not just out of sentiment but because their fates were intrinsically tied to their realms, a mutual prosperity, a shared loss. Should the floodgate realm be destroyed by a celestial calamity, the fate of a Mahayana Daelord who had merged their Tao with the realm was easy to imagine. Pushing aside all distractions, Jiang Chengxuan manifested his Mahayana Tao powers, enveloping the cave in a protective barrier, ensuring nothing disturbed the long period of cultivation that was beginning anew. But time once again swiftly passed, and in the blink of an eye, thousands of years of silence slipped away. Outside Cloud Mist Peak, within a newly erected grand hall of the Haoran sect, a massive platform rose, buzzing with the voices of many. Over these millennia, the Haoran sect had grown increasingly powerful, formally recognized as the foremost righteous sect hundreds of years ago. The sect's territory in the floodgate realm had expanded continuously, with the new world being developed impressively. Although Jiang Chengxuan remained in seclusion, figures like Qin Shenwu occasionally emerged to handle important decisions for the sect's development. Today's Haoran sect was a far cry from its state 1,000 years ago, having transformed completely. New halls and blessed lands sprung up, injecting vigorous momentum into the sect's growth. With excellent resources at their disposal, the disciples of the Haoran sect dominated their ranks, continuously attracting a stream of talented individuals eager to join. This virtuous cycle propelled the sect's power to remarkable heights. During a bustling gathering in the Grand Hall, many cultivators from various sects were present, indicating a gathering of significant importance. The final round of the Floodgate Tao competition is about to begin. The disciples representing their sects will compete for the championship. The winner will receive half a year's harvest from the New World's medicinal garden as a reward, announced an elder from the Haoran sect with a voice resonant as a bell. At the most prominent part of the platform, 8 young cultivators stood, each radiating intense energy. They were the strongest disciples from various sects across the Floodgate realm, gathered here for this grand event by the Haoran sect. As the competition reached its climax in this final round, the victor would be granted significant rewards jointly offered by the allied sects. Among these competitors, not only were there prominent figures from overlord forces like the Pantheon sect and Divine Shadow Gate, but the most dazzling of all was a female disciple from the Haoran sect, absorbing countless admiring gazes. With the commencement of the final round, the elder declared, and all 8 young cultivators unleashed their powers without reservation. Each one demonstrated half-step Tao fusion capabilities. However, in an unexpected twist, rather than attacking each other, they all simultaneously directed their efforts against the single Haoran sect disciple. 7 formidable forces combined in a coordinated assault, emitting an aura so strong that it astonished even some of the elder cultivators present. With a fierce shout, the Haoran sect disciple erupted in a burst of 5-colored divine light, repelling the combined attack with overwhelming force. Alone, her power seemed no less formidable than the combined might of the 7 other sect disciples. Such prowess clearly indicated she had reached the realm of Tao fusion. Under the brilliant glow, the familiar face of Jiang Anren was revealed. Facing the combined attack of disciples from the 7 major sects, Jiang Anren unleashed her power at the level of Tao fusion, leaving countless onlookers utterly astounded. Although the disciples from the 7 sects had recognized her as the strongest presence there, and had attempted to eliminate her first, they also wanted to curb the rising momentum of the Haoran sect. Yet no one had anticipated that among this batch of disciples, with only a millennium of cultivation, there would be one who had reached the realm of Tao fusion. Such strength was already sufficient for her to hold the position of an elder within the Haoran sect, and even in the floodgate realm, she was capable of founding her own sect. Her presence in the disciple competition was simply overwhelming. In an instant, the countless spectators were flooded with various emotions. Members of the Haoran sect felt pride and admiration, while the leading elders of the other sects were in shock, lamenting the strength of the Haoran sect. Their intention had been to unite the resources and manpower of all sects to hold a grand event visible throughout the floodgate realm, and to eliminate the Haoran sect first in the competition to undermine its prestige. They hoped to attract more talents during disciple recruitment by doing so. But they had never imagined that the disciple the Haoran sect sent would be at the level of Tao fusion. Their plan had undoubtedly ended up benefiting her instead. Boom! At the Tao fusion realm, Jiang Anren's suppression of her opponents was absolute. With the power of her Tao rules, she dominated the octagonal platform single-handedly, pushing against everything. Amidst cheers from countless Haoran sect disciples, Jiang Anren unleashed the 5 elements Tao rule, creating a storm of 5 colors in the arena that cornered all the talented disciples from the various sects. The 7 opponents, unwilling and shocked, exerted all their strength in retaliation, staking their reputations as geniuses, unable to accept defeat. However, their powers could not break through the 5 elements Tao. In the next moment, Jiang Anren, not holding back anymore, transformed the 5-colored divine light into a mighty river that swept across the void, blasting all the sects' talents out of the arena. Haoran sect, Jiang Anren, under the tutelage of Jiang Chengxuan, thank you. Standing proudly alone on the platform, she spoke lightly. The entire venue fell silent, then erupted into tremendous cheers and applause. Jiang Chengxuan. 1,000 years later, this name once again brought such shock to the floodgate realm. Rumors had it that this man had been in seclusion for 1,000 years, and everyone speculated about his current condition and what kind of storm he would stir in the floodgate realm upon his emergence. At least for now, under his name, the Haoran sect was unstoppable, having ascended to the pinnacle of the floodgate realm. Amidst mist and moonlight, outside the cave on Cloud Mist Peak, a figure stood silently, his presence almost invisible. Under the glow, the man's face was revealed. It was Jiang Chengxuan, the subject of everyone's speculation. He had seen everything happening in the Haoran sect right now. His lips curled up in a very satisfied smile at his disciple's performance against 7 opponents. Truthfully, although he had cared for Jiang Anren, providing her with various treasures and spiritual items, he hadn't guided her much in cultivation. What he had done was to arrange resources for her properly, but in terms of the path of cultivation, she relied on her own talent and insight. Jiang Anren, like him, came from the same world, and now achieving such accomplishments made him feel proud, reminiscent of his past self. Over these 1,000 years, Jiang Chengxuan had fully stabilized his Mahayana realm, but had not left Cloud Mist Peak to protect Shen Ruyan. Occasionally, he would come to the peak to overlook the changes in the Haoran sect. The sect's thriving development and strength brought great joy to Jiang Chengxuan's heart. Facing all the past sect leaders, he could confidently say that under his leadership, the Haoran sect was at its most powerful. 1,000 years might not be long for a sect, But these 1,000 years under his leadership were more significant than the previous 10,000 years for the Haoran sect. While Jiang Chengxuan was absorbed in observation, a predestined change occurred. He suddenly felt something and turned to look towards Shen Ruyan's meditation cave. There, a tremendously mysterious power was slowly emerging, with an immense force of Tao rules slowly manifesting. In the void, primordial god thunder flickered, reflecting scenes of life and death and the cycles of beings. This spectacle gradually spread, enveloping the entire cloud mist peak, appearing like a mirage. Yet the aura it emitted was terrifyingly powerful, impenetrable to any probing. Jiang Chengxuan was very familiar with such phenomena. A look of joy burst across his face. He knew that Shen Ruyan was close to completing her Tao integration with the universe and was about to achieve the realm of Mahayana. In the world of the universal will, Shen Ruyan had transformed into the body of primordial god thunder, wielding the dual-colored Tao of life and death. Her feet stirred the winds, battling fiercely against a manifestation of the universal will at its peak. This manifestation of the universal will was not in any ordinary form, but appeared as a phoenix, its wings obscuring the sky and its body ablaze with colorful flames. The battle had reached its final stage. Shen Ruyan faced the Tao Phoenix without retreating, fighting until her trio of Tao powers was nearly shattered. But above her head, the guiding light had blossomed to its fullest extent, with the world's imprint almost within reach. In the next moment, the Tao Phoenix stirred the entire world of Tao, as immense colorful currents flowed, bringing the power of the whole world crashing down upon her. Facing this terrifying strike, Shen Ruyan's eyes filled with determination. She felt the gaze of Jiang Chengxuan, who was undoubtedly observing her. She knew her husband had already broken through to the Mahayana realm and was waiting for her success. With a surge of strong belief, she unleashed all her Tao powers in an instant, transforming them into a vast sea of swords, launching them forward. Boom, boom! In the terrible collision of Tao forces, a storm of colors swept through everything, and a profoundly mysterious light burst forth, shooting straight into the sky. In the brink of peril, Shen Ruyan exerted all her might, finally managing to thwart the assault of the Tao Phoenix. In that fleeting moment, the world's brand merged into her Tao physique. Screech! The ferocious Tao Phoenix let out a piercing cry, then its looming figure gradually dissipated, shrouding everything in oblivion. Within the clouds and misty peaks, divine radiance emanated from Shen Ruyan's body, while strands of primordial thunder emerged in the void. With eyebrows resembling willow leaves, Shen Ruyan suddenly opened her eyes, her demeanor imposing yet tranquil. Subsequently, the apparition manifesting between heaven and earth swiftly converged and dissipated. Congratulations, wife, on attaining Mahayana. At that moment, the voice of Jiang Chengxuan resonated from nearby. Shen Ruyan looked up and indeed saw Jiang Chengxuan's smiling face, brimming with contentment as he gazed upon her. In an instant, a smile crept onto Shen Ruyan's lips, and within the cave abode, it seemed as though a myriad of flowers blossomed, radiating unparalleled brilliance. As it turned out, during the battle of wills within the world consciousness against the Tao Phoenix, her perception had not faltered. Jiang Chengxuan had indeed long since broken through to the realm of Mahayana Daolord, safeguarding her from the outside and vigilantly observing her. Between the two, there existed a profound karmic bond, and Jiang Chengxuan at this moment was already a Mahayana Daolord. Although merely observing, in the depths of the unknown, his aid towards her breakthrough was not insignificant. This discovery naturally filled Shen Ruyan, who had just broken through to Mahayana Daolord, with even greater joy. Many thanks to my husband for guiding me along the Tao. Immediately she stood up, her face adorned with a smile of joy. To this, Jiang Chengxuan could only step forward, taking hold of Shen Ruyan's hands, and said with a smile, "Not yet, there is still one final step to complete, to fulfill my duty as your husband." Shen Ruyan nodded gently, well aware that the final step Jiang Chengxuan referred to was the tribulation crossing. By now, with her heightened sensitivity after advancing to Mahayana Daolord, she could already sense the agitation and ferocity burgeoning around her. "There's no time to waste, let's go, and cross the tribulation beyond the domain." Jiang Chengxuan's hand gathered profound light, drawing a circular void gate into existence in the void. In the next moment, without hesitation, the two stepped shoulder to shoulder into the profound darkness. The chaotic aura assailed them, and the boundless realm beyond the domain once again unfolded before their eyes. Boom, boom. Just as the gateway between realms closed, a terrifying thunderous roar echoed in the void. The unfathomable might of heaven and earth pressed down in an instant. 9 colored thunder lights flickered in the darkness, as if 9 colossal beasts with eyes as vast as stars were peering at their existence. "I'm going, husband." As the thunder lights in the chaos grew increasingly frenzied, Shen Ruyan's expression grew solemn. She circulated her qi, adjusting her breath to its peak, and spoke slowly. The tribulation was a trial bestowed by heaven and earth upon cultivators during ascension. This matter could not be substituted by anyone else. Otherwise, it would only incur the even greater wrath of heaven and earth. Moreover, within the tribulation, there existed certain rules. Only those who truly crossed the tribulation could obtain these rules and achieve genuine enlightenment. In the cultivation world, there were often those who sought methods to evade tribulations. However, those who advanced using such methods often ended up weaker than normal tribulation crossers, only achieving a false realm. Shen Ruyan naturally would not choose to do so. In the future, she still wanted to walk further on the path of cultivation with Jiang Chengxuan, to witness more distant immortal realms, not settling for a false realm. She pursued Mahayana not for longevity or immortality, but to accompany her Tao companion, to contend with heaven and earth, and with herself. Under Jiang Chengxuan's nod, Shen Ruyan hesitated no longer, traversing the void, facing the increasingly intense thunder lights head-on. There, the 9 colored thunder lights had erupted to their zenith, each flicker akin to a small sunburst, emanating an incredibly terrifying power. Boom! In an instant, as the 9 colored thunder lights simultaneously erupted within the realm beyond the domain, 9 enormous torrents surged out of thin air, cutting through the endless chaotic darkness. The 9 colored thunder lights, extending in 9 directions like 9 linked stars, ultimately transformed into 9 thunderous dragons, roaring across the domain, with thunder condensing into liquid, erupting endlessly. This was none other than the most formidable thunder tribulation in legend for cultivators of thunder techniques, the 9 Dragon Annihilation Thunder Tribulation. This tribulation specifically targeted cultivators practicing thunder techniques under these 9 colored divine thunder lights. Not only could one not cheat, but instead they would suffer the most terrifying suppression. However, facing the 9 thunderous dragons spanning thousands of miles, Shen Ruyan remained undaunted, her heart as calm as still water. Jiang Chengxuan was already waiting for her at the realm of Great Tao. No matter what appeared ahead, she would only sever it. In the next moment, Shen Ruyan's body also transformed into a thunder spirit, igniting the void with primordial thunder, burning fiercely. The black and white rules of life and death transformed into 2 serpents encircling her arms. Boom! In an instant, the 9 thunderous dragons surged forth, traversing the void to attack. The chaos beyond the domain was scorched by their bodies, leaving behind void rifts. The terrifying power of the 9 thunderous forces descended simultaneously, but Shen Ruyan did not retreat. The primordial thunder erupted from her body, spreading for thousands of miles, like a burning giant tree, wildly growing in the domain beyond the domain. 2 terrifying forces collided abruptly, and this entire area fell into a sea of thunder, with 10 kinds of thunderous powers rising in the chaos, instantly annihilating countless stars. Thunder, since the birth of the universe, has possessed the most powerful destructive element. And now, what existed here was the most powerful thunder in the world. Neither Shen Ruyan nor the 9 colored thunder tribulation showed any signs of backing down. Both erupted with all their might, freely unleashing destruction in this realm beyond the domain. Such a collision even made Jiang Chengxuan, who was watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but wear a grave expression. Cycle of life and death, thunder transcends. In the battle of tribulation, it soon entered a white-hot stage. Shen Ruyan no longer held back. Forming mysterious hand seals, she immediately unfolded her newly comprehended divine technique. Under her control, the rules of life and death and primordial thunder merged completely, within the thunder tribulation. They forcibly created 1 black and 1 white domain, followed by 2 divine generals stepping out from within. The primordial thunder and the rules of life and death, the 2 strongest forces, transformed into towering spirits that overshadowed the heavens. Their terrifying might instantly dispelled the thunder tribulation to some extent. Even if Shen Ruyan wielded her full power to execute this move, she couldn't help but feel a bit weary. Such was the immense power it possessed. In an instant, the two divine generals traversed the chaos, their colossal palms immediately seizing a piece of the void. Then two thunderous dragons were captured within their grasp. With a rumble, the 9 thunderous dragons surged forth, traversing the void. Their bodies scorched the chaos beyond the domain, leaving behind void rifts. The 9 terrifying forces of thunder descended simultaneously, but Shen Ruyan did not retreat. The primordial thunder erupted from her body, spreading for thousands of miles, like a burning giant tree, wildly growing in the domain beyond the domain. Two terrifying forces collided abruptly, and this entire area fell into a sea of thunder, with 10 kinds of thunderous powers rising in the chaos, instantly annihilating countless stars. Thunder, since the birth of the universe, has possessed the most powerful destructive element. And now, what existed here was the most powerful thunder in the world. Neither Shen Ruyan nor the 9-colored thunder tribulation showed any signs of backing down. Both erupted with all their might, freely unleashing destruction in this realm beyond the domain. Such a collision even made Jiang Chengxuan, who was watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but wear a grave expression. Cycle of life and death, thunder transcends. In the battle of tribulation, it soon entered a white-hot stage. Shen Ruyan no longer held back. Forming mysterious hand seals, she immediately unfolded her newly comprehended divine technique. Under her control, the rules of life and death and primordial thunder merged completely, within the thunder tribulation. They forcibly created one black and one white domain, followed by 2 divine generals stepping out from within. These towering spirits, embodiments of primordial thunder and the rules of life and death, dominated the heavens with their imposing presence. Their immense power managed to partly dispel the thunder tribulation's onslaught. Even as Shen Ruyan unleashed this technique with all her might, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of exhaustion. Such was the enormity of its power. In an instant, the 2 divine generals traversed the chaos, their colossal palms seizing hold of a segment of the void. Then 2 thunderous dragons were ensnared within their grip. The appearance of the 2 divine spirits of life and death immediately changed the situation. In the void, the 9-colored thunderous dragons were ruthlessly suppressed by them, their furious roars echoing endlessly. However, the power required to sustain this divine power was clearly beyond Shen Ruyan's limits. After a moment, a paleness crept onto her face, her red lips tightly clenched, persevering desperately. Perhaps just a moment was all it took for her thunder spirits to crush the 9-colored tribulation. But at this moment, that short span of time felt excruciatingly long. The divine thunder of life and death was a power beyond that of a Mahayana Deilord, forcibly integrated by Shen Ruyan. And it was not completely under her control. Therefore, how long she could hold out, she didn't know. But as soon as the divine spirits of life and death disappeared, the situation that followed would undoubtedly fall into extreme passivity. Boom, boom. This battle had officially entered its most dangerous moment. The 2 divine spirits of life and death charged amidst the encirclement of the 9-colored thunderous dragons, extremely domineering. Under their divine might, 3 thunderous dragons had already been shattered alive, a terrifying sight to behold. In the void, the rumbling continued incessantly, the void tearing apart in all directions. At this moment, Shen Ruyan's aura was extremely unstable, divine thunder erupting from her body, difficult to control. And within the thunder tribulation, there were still 2 of the most powerful 9-colored thunderous dragons ahead of the 2 divine spirits of life and death. The battle between the 2 sides was extremely fierce, every exchange causing Shen Ruyan's expression to grow heavier. But with sheer willpower, she continued to persist. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan finally couldn't resist lending a helping hand. Black and white rules of life and death appeared on his body, transforming into 2 invisible chains, connecting him and Shen Ruyan together. A new surge of power immediately flowed into Shen Ruyan's body through this connection, and since the 2 were of the same origin, there was no rejection. This was Jiang Chengxuan's divine power, reversal of life and death, which could transfer the damage he received onto his opponent. Once, when he was at the Tao Mastery, he used this move to severely injure Deilord Phantom Ghost, who was also a Mahayana Deilord. But now, using it again, he transferred Shen Ruyan's exhaustion to himself. This move could be described as ingenious. And indeed, as Jiang Chengxuan had expected, under the deception there was no reaction from the thunder tribulation. The causal relationship between the two and the power of the same origin of life and death obviously evaded the scrutiny of fate. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other in silence, without any unnecessary words. And the next moment, Shen Ruyan immediately erupted with all her might once again, and the divine thunder of life and death surged. Boom! Under this support, the two divine spirits of life and death immediately unleashed their power to destroy everything. Within a few breaths, they crushed the last two nine-colored thunderous dragons in the void. In the end, the two divine spirits dissipated, leaving behind only the headless multitude of nine-colored divine thunder, which Shen Ruyan absorbed almost completely, completing the final rule of Mahayana. This nine-dragon annihilation thunder tribulation had finally been safely crossed by Shen Ruyan. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan became the only pair of Tao companions in the history of the Floodgate realm to achieve Mahayana. Husband, I did it. When her realm stabilized and she achieved the mastery of Mahayana Daolord, Shen Ruyan immediately flew towards Jiang Chengxuan. Like a swallow returning to its nest, the two embraced tightly. In the midst of chaos and void, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were both filled with boundless joy. After thousands of years of hardship, the two of them finally succeeded in reaching the pinnacle of the Floodgate realm. This also meant that in the future, the two of them still had a long way to go together. Let's go back, shall we? Yes. After a moment of tenderness, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan once again opened the gate of the realm together and returned hand in hand to the cloud mist peak of the Haoran sect. Under the influence of the two Mahayana Daolords, this peak that pierced the sky became even more ethereal and majestic. And just as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, husband and wife, returned to the cloud mist peak of the Haoran sect in the Floodgate realm, at the moment their feet touched the ground, a familiar voice appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. The long unheard voice made Jiang Chengxuan's heart tremble, and suddenly, an immense joy burst forth from within him. Congratulations, host, for breaking through to the realm of Mahayana Daolord. Obtain the treasure of the heavens, the yin-yang life and death sword, and obtain 2 pills of immortality. This cold, mechanical voice was indeed from the system, but hearing it at this moment was so pleasant to Jiang Chengxuan's ears. Moreover, the rewards the system gave him were still so pleasantly surprising. Even after having seen the collections of the immortal cave abode and having broadened his horizons, the treasures bestowed by the system, undoubtedly, were still considered quite generous. The yin-yang life and death sword, just hearing its name made it clear that it was a heavenly treasure related to the rules of life and death. Such a divine weapon was undoubtedly most suitable for him, who was skilled in the sword. And those 3 words, pill of immortality, echoed in Jiang Chengxuan's mind, leaving him feeling somewhat dazed. Pill of immortality, when taken, even if the body and soul are destroyed, one can still resurrect autonomously. In just a few words of introduction, even with Jiang Chengxuan's strong will, he couldn't help but feel shocked. For high-level cultivators, resurrection was not uncommon. Merely leaving behind the soul could lead to resurrection through possession, not to mention the existence of various miraculous treasures. But what the pill of immortality said was that even if one's body and soul were annihilated, they could still resurrect autonomously. The words body and soul destroyed and autonomous firmly caught Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. The resurrection of a cultivator was always based on the survival of the soul, but if both body and soul were destroyed, it was as if one had fallen into the same pit of despair as immortal Eastern River. Yet at this moment, this pill of immortality could resurrect a person with both body and soul destroyed. Such an existence, even in the scrolls and jade slips of the immortal cave abode, Jiang Chengxuan had never heard of. It was feared that if this item spread, even the immortals from the 36 immortal domains would vie for it by all means. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's heart was both shocked and somewhat fearful. Such immense fortune was somewhat unexpected, making him feel a bit uneasy. But he trusted the system unconditionally. He knew that the rewards given by the system would never come with any problems. Soon, he calmed down again. The next moment, he couldn't wait to take out 1 pill of immortality. He handed this pill, transcending the cycle of life and death, possessing powers beyond the 6 realms, to Shen Ruyan. Facing Shen Ruyan's curious gaze, Jiang Chengxuan slowly spoke. This is the pill of immortality. When taken, even if one dies, they can resurrect, even if their body and soul are destroyed. Consider it a congratulatory gift from me to you for achieving Mahayana. These words immediately caused Shen Ruyan's pupils to dilate, and she gently covered her lips with her jade-like hand. Jiang Chengxuan's words were like a huge boulder dropped into Shen Ruyan's heart, causing a huge upheaval. If she hadn't just achieved Mahayana, Shen Ruyan would have doubted whether she had misheard the effect of the immortality pill. To allow someone whose body and soul had perished to be resurrected without paying any price, all cultivators knew what these two sentences represented. Shen Ruyan knew that with Jiang Chengxuan's character, it was impossible for him to play such a joke on her, and there was no possibility of Daelord misspeaking either. So the immortality pill appearing in Jiang Chengxuan's hands was undoubtedly 100% real. Under Jiang Chengxuan's gentle urging, Shen Ruyan carefully put away the immortality pill. She didn't ask much about the origin of this item, as it was a tacit understanding between the two of them. The secrets of fate and opportunity on cultivators' bodies were not something that could be shared with others, not even with relatives. This was the biggest difference between Tao companions and ordinary mortal couples. Both of them were powerhouses in the cultivation world, so naturally, they were extremely familiar with the rules here. "Thank you for the gift, husband," Shen Ruyan smiled, and Jiang Chengxuan didn't say much more, and they passed over this matter. In the following days, they didn't immediately retreat but chose to stabilize their realm in the cave. With Jiang Chengxuan's experience, Shen Ruyan's realm stabilization progressed rapidly this time. They spent their days exchanging cultivation experiences in the cave, or overlooking the current situation of the Haoran sect from the peak of the Cloud Mist Peak, like true, immortal Tao companions. During their cultivation, there were frequent anomalies outside the Cloud Mist Peak, sometimes with the yin and yang thunder pool rumbling endlessly, and sometimes with a five-colored divine lotus descending from the sky, floating among the rosy clouds, opening and closing, showing a strange scene of samsara with the breath of life and death permeating the air. This time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't deliberately conceal these anomalies, naturally attracting countless disciples and elders of the Haoran sect to come and observe. Until one day not long after, the couple finally decided to officially emerge from seclusion. That day, the two of them restrained their aura, and outside the Cloud Mist Peak, the continuous anomalies gradually subsided. Many disciples and elders who had come out of curiosity immediately sensed that something was wrong. In no time, outside the Cloud Mist Peak, there was a sea of people. Although there was no longer any barrier from the anomalies at this time, the disciples and elders of the Haoran sect still looked from a distance, not daring to approach the vicinity of the cave. "Hey, why is everyone here, senior brother?" Some young disciples brought here whispered, dressed in new-style uniforms, their faces green. "What place is this, don't you know?" the senior brother, who was slightly older, said to him. "Do I still need to say? This Cloud Mist Peak, our Haoran sect know, the entire Floodgate realm, who doesn't know?" The young man said proudly. In the Floodgate realm, being able to enter the Haoran sect was the proudest achievement of his life. The resources here were superior to those of other sects, and when it came to the reputation of the sect master of the Haoran sect, it made people from other sects look up to him with awe. "Then why are you asking? When these anomalies subside and the starry sky is quiet, we might be able to see the legendary sect master." The young man's words made countless disciples yearn for it. The existence of the sect master of the Haoran sect was something they could boast about even if they could just get a glimpse from afar. At this moment, suddenly, everything in the sky and earth became still, as if all movement had stopped at this moment. The wind stopped blowing, the clouds stopped moving, and even the moon appeared dim, no longer dazzling. This all happened so naturally, yet so abruptly. For some reason, everyone's hearts resonated with a strange feeling, and they all stopped whispering and eagerly awaited. At this moment, from behind the layers of misty clouds on the Cloud Mist Peak, two figures slowly walked out, like immortals in the Moon Palace, exuding a great sense of tranquility. The appearance of the two figures did not give people a great sense of shock, but everyone dared not look directly at them. Even their breathing became shallower. There was no doubt that the two figures walking out were Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "Elders, fellow disciples of the Haoran sect, sorry for keeping you waiting." Facing the crowd, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan did not show any domineering majesty, but instead smiled warmly. At this moment, countless people felt as if they were bathed in a warm spring breeze, and some disciples even felt their blood boiling, their faces flushing red. However, several senior elders with deep cultivation levels had their expressions changed drastically, showing shock all over their faces. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan, with just a gesture, could change the heavens and the earth according to their will, a fact they were extremely clear about. For a moment, an extremely old elder's face turned red, and he shouted loudly, "Congratulations! Congratulations, sect master, for breaking through to Mahayana." He was extremely excited, his old face like an ancient tree in spring, tears streaming down, stuttering. As soon as these words fell, countless disciples of the sect all gasped for breath, feeling their throats dry. Their sect master had actually broken through to Deadliest. It was worth mentioning that some old ancestors of other sects were only at the level of Tao mastery. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan had both broken through to the realm of Mahayana, which was simply terrifying. Congratulations, sect master, for breaking through to Mahayana. Congratulations, sect master, for breaking through to Mahayana. Led by that senior elder, the disciples of the Haoran sect went crazy, shouting loudly, shaking the heavens. Tonight, they witnessed the birth of a miracle. From now on, the Haoran sect would develop into an unimaginable state. Pride, honor, and various emotions filled their hearts. This is not only the achievement of the two of us, but also the achievement of the Haoran sect. Today, we share it with everyone present. At this moment, Jiang Chengshuan also couldn't help but be moved. He took out the purple crystal source marrow from his storage ring, melted the nearly 9th-level spiritual material with the power of Mahayana, and then waved his hand, sending out the invaluable energy, turning it into an invisible rain of Tao rules. In an instant, countless disciples of the Haoran sect felt the mana in their bodies skyrocketing, and their spiritual insights and enlightenment were continuously stimulated from within. This was the method of Deadliest, a great opportunity for those whose realms were not yet profound enough. It was simply a tremendous blessing. Under Jiang Chengshuan's grand gestures, countless disciples of the Haoran sect felt a loosening of their cultivation realms. Many elders also sensed an opportunity to break through their realms. Subsequently, they all bowed respectfully to Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan, feeling immensely grateful. Moreover, the opportunity arranged by Jiang Chengshuan did not end quickly. After a moment, more people felt the atmosphere here and gathered. At this point, some left because they couldn't bear more opportunities, while others hurried to break through due to the loosening of their realms. In this way, batches of disciples from the Haoran sect came to worship Jiang Chengshuan and receive opportunities. Undoubtedly, after this downpour of Tao rules, the strength of the entire Haoran sect would increase significantly. Finally, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan smiled and left the cloud mist peak silently. After leaving the cloud mist peak, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan crossed the void and headed towards the majestic Shenwu peak. After 1,000 years, they were eager to see Qin Shenwu, and according to their senses, there was another person they wanted to meet. Soon, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan arrived in front of the magnificent Shenwu Hall. Without needing to do much, two figures emerged from the Shenwu Hall. Chengshuan Ruyan, congratulations to both of you, haha. The tall figure walking in the front was naturally their Shifu, Qin Shenwu. He had sensed something when they set up opportunities before leaving seclusion, and had been waiting here. Sect Master. At this moment, another slender figure dashed out, wearing a white dress and standing gracefully. It was their disciple, Jiang Anren, who had been waiting for Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan for a long time. During these 1,000 years, Jiang Anren had worked hard defeating talents from various sects. She had become somewhat famous in the Floodgate realm and the Haoran sect. Such a talented disciple naturally received attention and was arranged under Qin Shenwu. Facing the reunion with their long-lost friends, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan were naturally overjoyed, smiling as they spoke. Anren, you've already reached Tao Fusion in such a short time. It's truly gratifying to see you processing so quickly. Thank you, Shifu, for your guidance. I didn't disappoint you. Jiang Anren was greatly pleased by Jiang Chengshuan's praise, her expression filled with excitement. Shen Ruyan also walked over with a smile, gently holding her disciple's hand to encourage her. After 1,000 years apart, there were countless things to say. The four of them chatted outside the Shenwu Hall for a long time before finally entering the hall amidst laughter and joy. Anren, this is a gift from me for you. Tonight there are many guests, hoping you will continue to work hard. Walking inside the Shenwu Hall, Jiang Chengxuan's hand lit up with brilliance. Immediately, a seal carved with countless auspicious signs appeared, and he handed it to Jiang Anren. This seal was the reward given by the system when Jiang Chengxuan broke through the realm of Dao fusion, the celestial seal of the azure sky. It was an extremely powerful defensive spiritual treasure, with the characteristic of being invulnerable to all methods. For Jiang Anren, who had just reached Dao fusion, there was no more suitable gift. Thank you, Shifu. I will continue to cultivate diligently in the future, bringing glory to our Heoran sect. Jiang Anren naturally wouldn't be stingy with her thanks, joyfully accepting the seal and saying solemnly. At this moment, Shen Ruyan also took out a spiritual item obtained from her immortal cave abode and gave it to Jiang Anren as a gift. Regarding this, Qin Shenwu chuckled as he watched. He had given his collection to Jiang Anren long ago. Witnessing such a harmonious scene within the sect, he couldn't help but feel extremely gratified. With such leadership spirit passed down from generation to generation, respecting elders and caring for the young, the Heoran sect would surely rise. Subsequently, Jiang Chengxuan and others began to exchange conversations in the Shenwu Hall. Listening to Qin Shenwu and Jiang Anren talk about the events that had occurred in the floodgate realm over the past 1,000 years. During this millennium, many events had occurred in the floodgate realm. Under the backdrop of the rapid expansion of the Heoran sect, other sects were also not idle. For example, the Floodgate Grand competition held earlier, where various sects attempted to suppress the momentum of the Heoran sect. Such things had happened countless times over the millennia. However, everyone maintained their dignity, only engaging in open and secret struggles without tearing their faces apart or resorting to real fights. By the way, speaking of these sects, there was a major event in the Floodgate realm. Qin Shenwu stroked his chin lightly and slowly spoke. Sacred Skeleton Sect in Ghost Hall, after 100 years since the immortal cave abode, suddenly announced their alliance and established a force called Shadow Skeleton Sect. These words surprised Jiang Chengxuan somewhat. He hadn't expected Daelord Skeleton and Daelord Phantom, Ghost, to choose the path of alliance under the pressure of the Heoran sect. No matter, timid mice gather together. But he smiled and said, causing Qin Shenwu to burst into laughter. Perhaps this matter was worth paying attention to before Jiang Chengxuan left seclusion, but now it was indeed unnecessary. This is indeed a small matter, but over the past millennium, many changes have occurred in the Floodgate realm, which makes me somewhat worried. Suddenly, Qin Shenwu's smile faded, and he spoke with a serious expression. During this millennium, for some reason, various large and small secret realms and treasures have appeared in the Floodgate realm incessantly. Not only our Heoran sect, but many other sects have made great gains in these secret realms. Even in recent years, there have been so many secret realms that each sect doesn't need to compete for opportunities. These words seem to describe the prosperous scene in the Floodgate realm over the past millennium, heralding an immensely glorious era. However, Jiang Chengxuan sensed the true meaning that Qin Shenwu wanted to convey from these words. The rise and fall of heaven and earth have their own cycle. When things reach an extreme, they will turn back. Master, you are worried that a calamity will descend. Jiang Chengxuan spoke slowly, hitting the mark on what Qin Shenwu truly wanted to express. Between heaven and earth, misfortune and fortune depend on each other. Life and death rotate, and freedom determines destiny, which is balance, yin and yang harmony. During prosperous times, great calamities are bound to occur, while in chaotic times, heroes are born. But conversely, it also means that when heroes emerge, chaotic times will ensue. In the vastness of the universe, this is a rule of heaven and earth. As an elder figure in the Floodgate realm with the cultivation of Mahian, Qin Shenwu's worries were not baseless. Indeed, there are never any gifts between heaven and earth. Some rise while others fall, but this time it has been unusually quiet. Qin Shenwu spoke gravely. Originally, he hadn't taken these matters to heart, especially since the Heoran sect, with its strength, often came out ahead in the competition for opportunities. However, as news of more and more secret realms appeared, he began to sense something was amiss. Over the years, he had been collecting information about these various secret realms. 500 years ago, a secret realm appeared in an ordinary snowy mountain in the Northern Territory. A cultivator from a small sect there accidentally entered and obtained a mysterious fruit, jumping 3 realms directly to void returning. 300 years ago, a high-level secret realm appeared directly above a sect in the Southern Territory. Divine light descended, causing all disciples and elders of that sect to break through overnight. 200 years ago, a lone cultivator found a dragon palace in a lake in the Eastern Territory. He consumed a dragon pill and achieved Tao integration in a month. Upon investigation, it was actually a secret realm. Qin Shenwu relayed the information about the secret realms he had collected over the years. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan listened intently and also felt that something was amiss. Is this still the cultivation world they knew? You feel there's something suspicious about all these secret realms? Qin Shenwu suddenly asked, seeing the furrowed brows of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Indeed, the opportunities mentioned in these secret realms seem to come without the dangers usually associated with them, almost like picking them up for free. Jiang Chengxuan nodded, articulating his thoughts. Hearing this, Qin Shenwu agreed profoundly, and the other two women also nodded in agreement. Correct, opportunities come with dangers. That's common sense in the cultivation world, almost a rule set by the heavens. Now, it seems as if these rules no longer apply. Not everyone can ascend overnight without any effort, although it's not unheard of, Qin Shenwu continued. Just as Jiang Chengxuan and others had experienced in the immortal cave abode before, opportunities came behind dangers. Secret realms could form either from an overflow of earthly energies, blessing all beings when manifesting, or from a great power leaving behind a legacy to find a fated person. However, the scenarios described by Qin Shenwu did not fit these conditions. Firstly, the accumulation of earthly energies takes a long time, often millions of years, like energy tides or the coming of purple qi, which are rare even in a lifetime. Secondly, a great power's legacy always involves tests, but the opportunities Qin Shenwu spoke of were simply there for the taking, which doesn't fit either. A great power's legacy wouldn't be so easily obtained without prerequisites or challenges, and even if there were no tests set, acquiring such a legacy would still have barriers. However, in the cases mentioned earlier, no such barriers were reported. The will of heaven and earth, though not sentient, would not squander its energies like a prodigal. If that were the case, the floodgate realm wouldn't have survived to this day. Its spiritual energy resources would have been depleted by cultivators millennia ago, and they would have left this world. It seems like something big is about to happen in the floodgate realm, and these secret realms are just a prelude, they concluded after sorting through their thoughts. These seemingly mundane events now appeared extraordinarily eerie. Almost certainly, something within the floodgate realm was becoming unusual, something significant was about to occur, and it would sweep across the entire realm. The atmosphere in the Grand Hall of Shenwu became increasingly tense. Although Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had achieved the great Dao Jun and had a great chance of ascending to immortality, they were not yet beyond this world. If a catastrophe were to erupt, they would not be spared. Moreover, as the head of the Haoran sect, Jiang Chengxuan couldn't just abandon his foundation and seek refuge alone. Perhaps I should consult the ancient ancestors, Jiang Chengxuan said after a moment. The peculiar events inevitably reminded them of the great calamity that once made the entire floodgate realm feel threatened, which originated from the Haoran sect's ancestral hall. Indeed, Chengxuan, you are now a Daelord. With the authority of the sect master, you should be able to gain more insight from the ancient ancestors, Qin Shenwu agreed. The ancestral hall was accessible only to the sect master of the Haoran sect, who could seek guidance and communicate with the immortal ancestors, a tradition that had always been followed. All right then, I will leave for a while. Anren, there's no need for you to worry about these matters, just focus on your cultivation, Jiang Chengxuan said to Jiang Anren, reassuring her before he and Shen Ruyan, without further hesitation, transformed into streaks of light and departed from the Shenwu Peak. Haoran Sect Ancestral Hall. This imposing hall, also the oldest building within the Haoran Sect, had evolved from a small temple to a structure as grand as a carved mountain peak, witnessing countless ascensions of immortals over the ages, a place of supreme sanctity. Shen Ruyan, having left the Thunder Valley for a millennium, decided to visit it again, intending also to share the matters they had discussed with her master, Yun Yizhen. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan stood alone in front of the Haoran sect's ancestral hall. His perception of everything had drastically changed since his last visit here. To him, the ancestral hall now felt like an endless tower stretching into the immortal realms, filled with a profoundly mysterious and majestic aura. Clearly, the ancestral hall was not as straightforward as it appeared. It must contain methods left by immortals. However, subsequent sect masters, having not reached the great Dao Jun level, might have forgotten its true significance. With his aura completely concealed, Jiang Chengxuan stepped into the ancestral hall. He was greeted by a pathway paved with jade, surrounded by walls adorned with carvings of past sect masters. At the end of the path stood statues of immortals, grandly capturing the essence of past ancestors in their celestial forms. As he moved deeper, Jiang Chengxuan's perception grew increasingly intense. As the current sect master of the Haoran sect, he had a significant karmic connection with the ancestral immortals. Inexplicably, Jiang Chengxuan felt that the ancestors in the immortal realm were already aware of his arrival. However, his current realm was not yet capable of overcoming the celestial rules, constraints to communicate directly with the immortals. Some rituals were still necessary. With the ritual, Jiang Chengxuan can now convey messages to the immortal realm, a major advantage of having ascended to a Daelord in managing the sect. Previously, he could only see or hear messages conveyed by the ancestors from the immortal realm, which were not useful. Moreover, given the nature of immortals, they are unlikely to constantly monitor the lower realms or proactively assist in resolving issues for the sects there. At such times, it is only through the sect masters' appeal to the immortal ancestors that they may lend their aid based on past karma and help in times of crisis. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan no longer hesitated. He regulated his breathing and cleared all stray thoughts from his mind. He stood at the very center of the ancestral hall, beneath a skylight that opened upward, casting a beam of light hundreds of meters down onto him. Bathing in the light, Jiang Chengxuan felt a warm sensation enveloping him, enhancing his spiritual senses to their peak. The scenery around him seemed to blur, transforming everything he saw into mystical symbols. Jiang Chengxuan closed his eyes and slowly walked towards the first of these symbols, visible from outside the hall as one of the golden statues of an immortal ancestor. Then, with a flash of inspiration, he rapidly formed a mysterious hand seal with his fingers. Instantly, a profound vibration spread through the void. An array of mystical light shot from his hands into the golden statue of the immortal ancestor. At this moment, in Jiang Chengxuan's perception, the symbol in front of him shone brilliantly, emitting a nine-colored divine light. He didn't linger. Instead, he moved on to the next symbol, naturally another golden statue of an immortal ancestor. Following the guidance of an inner light, Jiang Chengxuan quickly formed another mysterious hand seal. The mystical light that flew from the hand seal marked another symbol. In the ancestral hall, each golden statue of an immortal ancestor was associated with a different hand seal, which Jiang Chengxuan illuminated one by one. During this process, the world in his mind became increasingly vague. In a misty haze, he seemed to see a celestial mountain shrouded in mist, with waterfalls cascading down. As each hand seal was formed and each symbol lit up, Jiang Chengxuan's viewpoint drew closer to that celestial mountain, eventually arriving amidst it, beside what seemed like a Milky Way cascading from the heavens. This scene evoked a profound sense of peace, transcending the mundane. Outside in the ancestral hall, all the golden statues of the immortal ancestors were now emitting an intangible vibration, extending upwards through the dome towards the heavens, disappearing into the unknown. This extraordinary vibration was even noticed by Qin Shenwu from Shenwu Peak, aware that Jiang Chengxuan must be in contact with an immortal ancestor. Jiang Chengxuan heard what seemed like celestial music, which, upon closer listening, appeared to be merely the sound of the waterfall, the calls of birds and insects in the forest. All these changes seemed to offer him some sort of guidance. In this mystical world, Jiang Chengxuan walked slowly to the waterfall, where water met rock in a thunderous noise. Standing at the cliff's edge, he listened intently, his robe fluttering without wind. Then his hands unconsciously moved again, forming another mysterious hand seal. This seal coalesced into a beam of mystical light in the void, turning into a fragment of a broken cauldron. Without a moment to ponder, Jiang Chengxuan collected it and continued down the mountain path into a dense forest. Endless celestial light fell from the dome above, sprinkling through the gaps in the leaves, laying a speckled cobblestone path beneath Jiang Chengxuan's feet. Heeding the cosmic guidance, he walked steadily until he reached a towering tree with a hollow, where a colorful mystical bird was chirping. Jiang Chengxuan and the bird ignored each other, each immersed in their own activities, the bird chirping and he listening. After a moment, Jiang Chengxuan's spiritual insight surged again, and he formed another hand seal, casting a beam of light onto the mystical bird. Instantly, the bird burst into a rainbow of colors and transformed into another fragment of the small cauldron. Gathering the fragments, Jiang Chengxuan did not stop but moved towards the last location. Emerging from the forest, he stepped into a stream formed by the waterfall, walking through the rapids to a meadow. Standing there, he listened to the cicadas singing from all directions. After a moment, he waved his hands again, forming another hand seal, shooting a beam of light into the grass below. Then the earth parted, and a golden light flew out from the soil, dazzlingly bright. Jiang Chengxuan fixed his gaze on it, a fist-sized golden cicada chirping faintly. In the next instant, its form twisted, transforming into the final piece of the small cauldron. As soon as it appeared, it resonated with the previous fragments, each emitting a mystical light that converged in the air, forming a cyan-colored, mysterious small cauldron. Jiang Chengxuan cradled it in his hands, and then, with a flicker of spiritual light in his hand, another object appeared. It was the sect master's token given to him by Zhu Ping. Holding the small cauldron in one hand and the sect master's token in the other, Jiang Chengxuan stood upright and solemnly inserted the token into the soil of the small cauldron. Instantly, a rainbow-colored mystical smoke rose from the cauldron, enveloping the surroundings in a colorful, hazy illusion within moments. The mountains, waterfall, and meadow all receded and vanished into nothingness. Before Jiang Chengxuan, the outline of the environment twisted, transforming into the figure of a person. This person, dressed in a wide Taoist robe and standing with his back to Jiang Chengxuan, exuded an immense authority, yet also a sense of familiarity. Heoran sect master, Jiang Chengxuan, greets the immortal ancestor, Jiang Chengxuan said, bowing without hesitation to the figure before him. Without a doubt, the figure that had appeared was a living immortal, one of Heoran sect's immortal ancestors. Ancestor, Chengxuan has some matters for which he seeks your guidance. Jiang Chengxuan was about to share his and Qin Shenwu's speculations, but the immortal ancestor's actions interrupted him. The figure turned around slowly and extended a finger, touching it to Jiang Chengxuan's forehead. Instantly, everything around them began to fade rapidly. Even the immortal ancestor himself started to disappear slowly. All of this happened so suddenly. Jiang Chengxuan, who had painstakingly managed to connect with the immortal ancestor, didn't even have time to ask his questions. In the next moment, Jiang Chengxuan's consciousness flashed, and he was back in his own body. At the same time, the entire ancestral hall burst into endless radiant light. Mysterious beams of light shot out from the golden statues of the immortals and struck Jiang Chengxuan's head. In the depths of his mind, a message also imprinted itself. It turned out that there was no issue with the ritual, nor was the immortal ancestor unwilling to provide guidance. Without needing Jiang Chengxuan to speak, the immortal ancestor already knew his questions and, to conserve resources, directly dissolved the ritual and transmitted the answers. After all, contacting the immortal realm from the lower incurs a certain cost. Under such circumstances, providing clarifications as quickly as possible is essential, allowing no room for small talk. Immediately, Jiang Chengxuan read the message in his mind. Heaven and earth are unpredictable, yin and yang are out of balance. The day the black sun crosses the sky is the day the great calamity descends. It was a very brief sentence, but it undoubtedly shook Jiang Chengxuan deeply. It turned out that the great calamity of 1,000 years ago had indeed not been fully resolved. His earlier proposal to suppress the forces of evil was merely a solution for the urgent problems. The root cause still existed. The 1,000 years had been enough for the demonic immortals to employ their schemes, eroding the floodgate realm, and all this had already been taking place. Black sun crosses the sky. Jiang Chengxuan muttered gravely. It seemed that the great calamity might have already begun to cause changes unnoticed by all. I need more information. I must contact the immortal ancestor again. With that decision, Jiang Chengxuan prepared to contact the immortal ancestor once more to see if he could obtain more detailed information. Quickly adjusting his state, Jiang Chengxuan once again felt the subtle cosmic intentions and formed the necessary seals to reopen the pathway that would allow him to communicate with the immortal ancestor. This time, he found himself on a desolate island in a vast blue ocean, surrounded by the sound of crashing waves and strong winds. With the previous experience, Jiang Chengxuan quickly located the positions of 3 fragments of the small cauldron. In fact, this world was a manifestation of the rules of immortal Tao, and the quest for the fragments of the small cauldron was a method left by the immortal ancestor. Under the guidance of the immortal ancestor, Jiang Chengxuan overcame some celestial barriers by gathering the fragments with the aid of the causal link from the sect master's token. Jiang Chengxuan rose into the air, entering a thick cloud, and formed a seal that struck deep into the clouds. Instantly, a bird with white feathers and a yellow beak emerged, radiating divine light, transforming into a fragment of the small cauldron. Next, Jiang Chengxuan plunged into the deep sea from the clouds, striking a certain rock with a seal. A red coral slowly grew in the radiant light, forming another fragment of the cauldron. Lastly, as he moved with the wind into a space of emptiness, his seal struck nothingness, causing a whirlwind to rise, from which another fragment of the cauldron flew out. Having completed all the rituals again, Jiang Chengxuan took out the sect master's token and inserted it into the cauldron. In an instant, rainbow-colored mystical smoke rose, transporting him to a blank space where he could momentarily avoid the scrutiny of immortal rules. However, this time, the colorful mystical smoke rising from the token was much thinner. The figure of the immortal ancestor appeared again, but it was much dimmer than last time. Clearly, the immortal rules were not so easily fooled. Even this brief exchange had alerted them, and they began to pay more attention to this place. Ultimately, everything dispersed with a single point from the immortal ancestor, and Jiang Chengxuan found himself back in the ancestral hall in a trance. Instantly, several beams of light burst forth, merging into his mind. But this time, the message conveyed by the immortal ancestor could not form concrete words. Instead, it was just some vague impressions that he could barely grasp. Demonic immortals descend, threats from myriad races. Quickly, Jiang Chengxuan turned those fuzzy feelings into brief phrases. The implied meaning naturally surfaced. The immortal ancestor means to say that when demonic immortals descend, other great races from different realms might also pose a threat to the floodgate realm. Jiang Chengxuan concluded with a grave expression. He hadn't expected that this great calamity would also involve other realms. Unwillingly, his thoughts drifted to the 3 foreign realms that had been defeated by the floodgate realm in the past. Thousands of years might not have been enough for these realms to recover fully, but the vitality they lost to the floodgate realm might have somewhat replenished during their isolation. Moreover, the myriad races mentioned in the immortal ancestor's transmission might not necessarily be limited to these 3 realms. Perhaps more powerful entities were lurking in the shadows, eyeing the floodgate realm. Phew! Jiang Chengxuan exhaled lightly, feeling slightly weary. This consultation with the immortal ancestor had confirmed the existence of the great calamity, but also revealed that it was more complex than anticipated. Attempting to contact the immortal ancestor again soon would be impossible. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan transformed into a stream of light and left the ancestral hall. Soon after, he and Shen Ruyan appeared again on the summit of Shenwu Peak. On their way there, Shen Ruyan had just returned from Thunderclap Valley, so the two converged and went together. In the Great Hall of Shenwu, they met again with the others. Without waiting for Qin Shenwu to ask, Jiang Chengxuan took the initiative to share the information transmitted by the immortal ancestor with everyone present. Black sun crosses the sky, and the great calamity descends. The confirmation of the approaching great calamity astonished Shen Ruyan and Qin Shenwu among others. Yes, and I sought further clarification from the immortal ancestor. He indicated that this calamity might involve other races from different realms, Jiang Chengxuan added slowly. Could it be the 3 foreign races? But they have been in self-imposed isolation for so long that they likely lack the power to initiate anything, Qin Shenwu immediately analyzed. Indeed, there are too many mysteries involved, and it's hard to make any judgments with just our own capabilities, Jiang Chengxuan agreed. Perhaps, Shifu, you could try reaching out to other sects' Daelords to investigate further. I believe we're not the only ones who sense that something is amiss, he suggested. In times of universal calamity, it was not just a single sect's crisis, nor did it need to be faced alone. All right, as you suggest, Chengxuan, Qin Shenwu agreed. The next day, messages imbued with the essence of Qin Shenwu's Tao traveled stealthily from Heoran's sect, reaching the hands of several righteous sects' Daelords. Established powers such as Pantheon Sect, Infinite Sect, and divine shadow gate were all included. All parties took Xianxia's sudden transmission seriously and with caution. After all, Haoran's sect had grown into a colossal force within the floodgate realm, starkly different from 1,000 years ago. It was now an entity that stood above other sects within the current power structure of the floodgate realm. Fortunately, Haoran's sect did not enforce any rule to suppress the natural growth of their qi, allowing other sects to develop without oppressive interference despite its immense power. Upon opening Xianxia's message, the Daelords from various factions had markedly different reactions. Some were puzzled, some contemplative, and some silent with doubts. Regardless, none chose to respond immediately. But at the same time, in a certain part of the floodgate realm, a colossal mystical realm stood between heaven and earth, its brilliant aura transforming thousands of miles into a land of vibrant colors. This realm had appeared several days ago, drawing countless cultivators and wandering cultivators continuously. Within a valley inside this realm, two groups of cultivators in different attire were facing off. Between them lay a cold spring, its icy chill enveloping the valley in a deep blue hue. "Brother Li, I didn't expect to see you here. This ice heart spring is perfect for our sect's cultivation method. Could you perhaps concede it to us?" asked the leader of one group, clad in a blue robe. The other group, dressed in red robes and fiery hair, had their leader step forward, responding. "Unfortunately, Brother Wang, this ice heart spring is equally beneficial for our sect's practice. It helps eliminate the fire poison within us. It's difficult for us to give it up." For a moment, the cultivators from both sides exchanged glances, understanding that this opportunity was not easily monopolized. However, contrary to expectations, no conflict ensued. The cultivator from the cold sect said with a smile, "If that's the case, then let's share the ice heart spring. Brother Li, would you have any objections to that?" "That sounds reasonable. Nowadays, with so many opportunities around, it makes little sense to fight to the death over a small location." Surprisingly, both groups agreed to share the spring peacefully, without any scheming or deceit, an almost unthinkable scenario in times past. This scene, however, was merely a microcosm of the current state of the floodgate realm. With opportunities springing up like mushrooms after rain, appearing at a rate 10 or even 100 times more frequent than before, why should cultivators fight to the death over a single opportunity? Now, as long as one is alive and traveling through the floodgate realm, numerous opportunities can be encountered along the way. It is indeed a golden age for cultivators in this realm. In this context, interactions between various sects, cultivators appeared unusually harmonious and friendly. However, unnoticed in the shadows, as the cultivators from the cold and fire sects collected water from the ice heart spring, a sinister shadow quietly entered their bodies without their knowledge. Meanwhile, at the peak of a high mountain within the same realm, two exquisitely dressed cultivators stood above the clouds. Both exuded the power of Tao integration, indicating their formidable strength. Before them was a peculiar snow lotus rotating slowly, emitting a powerful aura. This lotus, known as the Tri-Heart Lotus, was invaluable for extending a cultivator's lifespan. "Saint Misty Peak, this Tri-Heart Lotus was discovered by me first. Surely you do not intend to take it by force," the older cultivator in a yellow robe said with displeasure. This Tri-Heart Lotus was his first find, and he was about to harvest it when the other party intervened. Had it been in the past, he might have suppressed the opponent without hesitation. However, with the advent of an era bursting with opportunities, he was reluctant to engage in conflict. "Not at all, not at all," replied Saint Misty Peak with a smile. His response, however, only fueled the other's curiosity. "Speak then." "Saint Yellow Wind, this Tri-Heart Lotus is an essential component for a potion I am concocting. If you are willing to concede, I am prepared to trade a location with a heavenly treasure for it," Saint Misty Peak confidently proposed. Indeed, the offer caused Saint Yellow Wind to hesitate. Although the Tri-Heart Lotus was precious, it paled in comparison to a heavenly treasure. If this trade went through, it would be a significant gain for him. "How can I trust you?" Saint Yellow Wind asked. "I can swear by my Tao heart if that would suffice," replied Saint Misty Peak, maintaining his amiable demeanor. Eventually, they reached an agreement. Saint Misty Peak swore by his Tao heart and then joyfully collected the Tri-Heart Lotus after the oath, considering the deal beneficial even though he needed the lotus for his breakthrough. As he collected the Tri-Heart Lotus, a sinister shadow flickered at the plant's roots and silently merged into Saint Misty Peak's body. None of the mighty saints present noticed this eerie occurrence. Following the shadow's trajectory, one could see a vast shadow lurking beneath the brilliance outside this mystical realm, continuously merging with it. Nearly all the opportunities within this massive mystical realm were infiltrated by this shadow, and all cultivators acquiring these opportunities unwittingly allowed the shadow to enter their bodies. The most terrifying aspect was the complete absence of any awareness among the cultivators. Neither void-returning cultivators nor the saints perceived the existence of this sinister shadow. This eerie shadow, spreading as the realm's visitors came and went, was surreptitiously moving everywhere. Hioran sect, the sect master's hall. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Qin Shenwu were seated inside. As days passed, they finally received messages from other sects' Daelords. However, after reviewing all the communications, Jiang Chengxuan and the others were somewhat disappointed. The inquiries had yielded little new information. In fact, some Daelords from other sects did not even believe in the reemergence of a major calamity. Only the Daelord of Pantheon sect took this matter very seriously, having communicated with their immortal ancestor about it. But the results were still not satisfactory, murmured Jiang Chengxuan, his brow furrowed in frustration. The imminent era of glory in Floodgate Realm seemed to have clouded many people's judgments, pushing considerations of the future to the back of their minds. During this time, there were numerous reports of new mystical realms appearing across Floodgate Realm. Many sects were focusing entirely on seizing these opportunities, showing little concern for other matters. Jiang Chengxuan had issued a decree within the Hioran sect, instructing its disciples to strictly avoid these realms until the situation was clearer. He was convinced that these realms harbored hidden dangers. This matter is significant. I have relayed the message back to Thunderclap Valley, and the Master has already ordered the disciples of Thunderclap Valley not to venture into these realms recklessly, said Shen Ruyan slowly. Thunderclap Valley and Hioran sect continued to stand together firmly. That's good. Amid this perplexing situation, even some sects that had previously been close to Hioran sect chose to ignore its warnings, frantically scavenging opportunities within the realms. Naturally, these sects saw significant growth, making it even harder to caution them against potential dangers. After all, if you're not competing for these treasures, others will, and your sect's prestige will suffer. Not every sect has the foundation of Hioran sect to disregard these realms, nor does every leader have Jiang Chengxuan's foresight to prioritize future risks over immediate gains. With a resigned sigh, Jiang Chengxuan acknowledged that life and death were fated. While Hioran sect was powerful, it was not the commander of Floodgate Realm capable of compelling uniform compliance, nor could it forcefully control other sects without risking major backlash. Sect Master, all the information you requested is here, announced an elder from Hioran sect as he approached the hall and bowed to Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Thank you, Elder Son, said Jiang Chengxuan as he took a jade slip from Elder Son. This matter requires ongoing surveillance. It's of great importance, so please keep a close watch, he instructed. Understood, Sect Master, replied Elder Son, and after some more exchanges he disappeared from the hall's entrance. Here is the recent information about the mystical realms. Shifu Ruyan, take a look as well, said Jiang Chengxuan, casting a spell on the jade slip to duplicate its contents for Qin Shenwu and Shen Ruyan. Both nodded and began to peruse the information with their divine sense. The investigation by Hioran sect's intelligence network revealed a pattern in the recent emergence of realms. The opportunities within them were increasingly plentiful and significant. These new realms had yielded treasures capable of advancing the cultivation of Daelords, explaining why many sects were eagerly participating. For any sect, Daelords are a pillar of strength, typically taking thousands of years for disciples to reach this level. Now, with realms offering chances to enhance Daelords' cultivation, every sect was bound to compete for them. Even if the sects themselves did not pursue these opportunities, their elders would likely take the initiative, driven by personal interests. Human desires are endless, and cultivators are no exception. Some seek immortality, others power, making them all the more eager for these chances. In the past, such realms were fraught with danger, but now, as they appeared increasingly harmless, even the most risk-averse among the elders were spurred into action. Alas, whether it's good or bad, it seems that for now, there's no sign of anything unusual within these realms, Qin Shenwu remarked after reviewing all the messages, his voice laden with concern. At this moment, he hoped to find more clues. Yet such findings would also mean that the calamity was indeed unfolding. Caught in this dilemma, they were all more puzzled than ever. In truth, a shadow had already spread invisibly across Floodgate Realm, eluding all detection. This particular realm seems a bit strange, don't you think? Jiang Chengxuan suddenly interjected, highlighting a specific message with a flash of light from his hand. Immediately, Shen Ruyan and Qin Shenwu focused their attention on it. The message detailed a realm where endless treasures had appeared, attracting many cultivators. However, any cultivator who approached this realm would inexplicably fall unconscious. Indeed, this realm, unlike others, does not pose any apparent danger but imposes this peculiar restriction, Shen Ruyan noted, echoing the unease in Jiang Chengxuan's thoughts. Exactly, it's this particular aspect that makes me feel uneasy, Jiang Chengxuan added, elaborating further. According to the reports, unless a cultivator is above the Daelord level, those who fall unconscious will lose all memories related to the realm once they awaken. This information made Shen Ruyan and Qin Shenwu realize the gravity of the situation. In the past, such phenomena would not have raised any concerns. After all, realms have historically presented various bizarre dangers, including memory loss among the milder effects. However, placing these events in the context of the current harmless-seeming realms made the anomaly stand out starkly. The realm not only induced unconsciousness in those who approached it, but also erased their memories, which was unusual. So, it seemed this mysterious secret realm indeed has many suspicious points. Jiang Chengxuan agreed with Qin Shenwu's keen observation. Then next, I will instruct Elder Sun to keep a close watch on that particular secret realm. I believe it will surely yield some results, Jiang Chengxuan said slowly, and his command was promptly relayed to Elder Sun. The vast information network of the Haoran sect began to pivot towards the area Jiang Chengxuan had indicated. Over the next few days, both Jiang Chengxuan and Qin Shenwu harbored some expectations. They felt that within that secret realm, there must be some clues hidden. Soon, a new piece of information was dispatched from Elder Sun's side and delivered to Jiang Chengxuan. However, the information investigated wasn't about what happened inside the secret realm. The cultivators who were illuminated by the mysterious light of the secret realm and fell unconscious woke up without any abnormalities. Moreover, according to some cultivators, after that bout of unconsciousness, their condition for cultivation seemed to have improved, the report detailed. Some even experienced immediate epiphanies upon waking up, breaking through their cultivation bottlenecks. These updates were undoubtedly about the cultivators who had entered the secret realm, thus the information had arrived quite swiftly. How do you see this, Ruyan? Jiang Chengxuan asked with a serious look after reading through all the messages, turning to Shen Ruyan who was beside him. She also frowned slightly, feeling the increasing strangeness from these messages. Collective unconsciousness followed by collective epiphanies. When has such an opportunity ever existed between heaven and earth? This is truly unheard of. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan nodded slightly in agreement. Previously, when they both had emerged from their great cultivation success, Jiang Chengxuan had also employed similar methods, allowing the disciples of the Haoran sect to collectively enhance their cultivation. But that was because Jiang Chengxuan also practiced the Haoran sect's techniques and was very familiar with the sect's cultivation methods, allowing him to achieve such results. Such techniques, similar to the infusion of power, are known to drain the practitioner greatly, yet no one had ever heard of a mysterious secret realm inducing unconsciousness in recipients like this. And that secret realm's light not only made cultivators from the 5 sects and 8 schools increase their cultivation abruptly, but also led them to enlightenment, which was very peculiar. All of this further deepened Jiang Chengxuan's suspicions about it. But without more information coming in, he was unable to make any judgment. Several days earlier, under Jiang Chengxuan's orders, Elder Sun of the Haoran sect decided to personally investigate this mysterious light secret realm. Upon his arrival at the location of the secret realm, what he saw was a sight of numerous cultivators lying unconscious. They lay scattered like drunken men, clad in various sect uniforms, spread out outside the secret realm, their expressions incredibly vacant as if they were dreaming. Simultaneously, at the periphery of the secret realm, several cultivators sat cross-legged, their foreheads flickering with mystical lights, and their aura continuously strengthening. Obviously, they were those who had experienced sudden insights due to the light from the secret realm and had chosen to break through right there. These two types of cultivators had completely surrounded the mysterious light's secret realm. With Elder Sun arriving later, he could only observe from a distance. Deep within the secret realm, boundless mystical lights soared into the sky, illuminating the universe and emanating an extremely strange and powerful aura. Even with Elder Sun's cultivation level, just looking at it from afar made him feel a bit pressured. Nevertheless, an unending stream of cultivators kept flocking to this secret realm. Almost every moment, people came after hearing about it. Elder Sun, naturally, would not approach the secret realm to avoid being affected by its powers. His first action was to wait for those affected by the secret realm's light to complete their breakthroughs before he approached to inquire further. After collecting and organizing this information, he would send it back to the Haoran sect to inform sect master Jiang Chengxuan. As a core figure in the Haoran sect, Elder Sun had a vague understanding of the investigations conducted by Jiang Chengxuan and others. Being there in person, he felt the secret realm's power was exceedingly strange and believed that the sect master's judgment was probably correct. However, as the ears of the sect, his job wasn't to analyze or make decisions based on feelings. Regardless of his sentiments, he had to find the oddities of this secret realm to report them. But just then, Elder Sun, looking forward, was shocked as he witnessed an incredibly unbelievable scene. How is this possible? Before his eyes, the previously immense secret realm and the sky-reaching mystical lights suddenly vanished without a trace. Such an occurrence made him cry out in disbelief. "What's wrong, Elder?" his disciple asked, seeing his shocked expression. "When did the secret realm disappear, Yanner?" Elder Sun, still in shock, urgently asked his disciple, not really expecting the question he was posing. "Shifu, what are you talking about? The secret realm has always been there," replied the disciple, confused by Elder Sun's sudden panic. At this moment, Elder Sun turned around again, his brows furrowed deeply. What he saw was still just an empty space. "Yanner, are you certain you can still see the secret realm?" The peculiarity of the situation sent chills through Elder Sun, making it hard for him to believe the words of his own disciple. "Yes, Master, the secret realm is right there. Why would I deceive you?" responded the disciple, equally shaken by his master's anxious demeanor. This reply confirmed for Elder Sun that something unusual had indeed occurred with the secret realm. Without any hesitation, he leaped across the void to the edge of the secret realm, grabbing a cultivator from the see-through stage to question them intensely. "Fellow cultivator, is the secret realm of mystical light right here?" This line of questioning, fueled by Elder Sun's imposing aura, confused the cultivator, but under pressure, he managed a nervous smile and said, "Honored one, the secret realm, isn't it right behind you?" Upon hearing this, Elder Sun immediately released the cultivator and moved on to another, continuing his inquiries. However, after asking several more cultivators, all answers were the same. The secret realm had not disappeared, he just couldn't see it. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Elder Sun issued a quick order to his disciple. "Yanner, keep a close watch on this secret realm. If there are any changes, you must inform me as quickly as possible." Then, in the next moment, his figure turned into a streak of light, racing back towards the direction of the Haoran sect. Shortly thereafter, outside Yunwu Peak, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan stood suspended in the void, their eyes fixed on the approaching figure of Elder Sun. The two of them had sensed Elder Sun's hurried return to the sect and were waiting for him. Seeing Elder Sun's expression, they both felt a sense of foreboding. "Elder Sun, what has happened that you have come back in such a rush?" The next moment, Jiang Chengxuan waved his sleeve, and he and Shen Ruyan disappeared from their spot, instantly appearing in front of Elder Sun. "Sect Master, the secret realm we were monitoring has undergone strange changes," Elder Sun announced without hesitation as soon as he saw Jiang Chengxuan. He immediately reported everything that had occurred at the location of the secret realm. The secret realm became invisible, and it's only visible to those above the Tao integration realm. Jiang Chengxuan muttered gravely to himself. Having waited so long, the news that came was unexpected, and he instantly sensed something was wrong. But such coincidences truly exist in this world. Just as he decided to investigate this secret realm, it conveniently began to show signs of disappearing. To Jiang Chengxuan, it seemed as though someone was controlling everything, evading him. He felt as if a layer of misty darkness had enveloped everything. "Husband, perhaps we should personally go there and investigate," Shen Ruyan suggested slowly, her intuition also strongly kicking in. Jiang Chengxuan nodded, his mind also leaning towards the idea of going there to check things out for himself. Elder son, you stay here at the sect for now. I'll go and check the reality of that secret realm. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan prepared to cross the void, but just at that moment, a speck of blue light was rapidly approaching from the sky. The object was infused with the aura of the Haoran sect, clearly a messaging Jade slip. At this, Jiang Chengxuan had to stop his departure. He felt an intuition that this message was crucially related to the secret realm. Jiang Chengxuan reached into the void, and from miles away, the messaging object instantly appeared in his hand. As he injected spiritual light, the message unfolded. Looking through the message, Jiang Chengxuan felt a shadow over his heart. The mystic light secret realm had vanished in an instant. This meant that the clues they had finally connected to the anomalies had bizarrely been cut off. Invisibly, it seemed as if an unseen hand was manipulating everything. Eventually, Elder Sun's disciples were also recalled to the sect, and the plan to investigate the secret realm was thus prematurely concluded. But time mercilessly passed, and within the blink of an eye, hundreds of years had gone by. Since the strange disappearance of the mystic light secret realm, Jiang Chengxuan and Qin Shenwu had not found similar clues in any other secret realms. Everything acted as if nothing had happened, and the prophesied Black Sun had not appeared. Over the centuries, countless secret realms still emerged, but their levels were no longer as high as before, and over time the frequency also gradually returned to normal. The Floodgate realm's glorious century seemed truly just like a gift from heaven, causing no anomalies. Numerous sect cultivators rose to prominence during this splendid century, quickly entering the ranks of superpowers. While some were happy, others were worried. Under Jiang Chengxuan's governance, the disciples of the Haoran sect did not taste much of the sweetness from the secret realms. This situation undoubtedly caused mockery from other sects in secret. Some ridiculed the Haoran sect for being foolish, for believing in so-called prophetic warnings from immortals, missing out on a glorious era and a tremendous opportunity. Some mocked Jiang Chengxuan for being overly cautious, for choosing to isolate and worry unnecessarily during a crucial time. Others thought Jiang Chengxuan had exhausted his talents, not living up to his previous fame, becoming mediocre. Regardless, after many sects took the opportunity to rise, the Haoran sect remained the foremost power in the Floodgate realm, and these talks were only dared to be discussed in secret. In this glorious century of the Floodgate realm, those who benefited the most were those who seized opportunities from that particular mystic light secret realm. Those cultivators who had been bathed in the mystic light and fallen unconscious subsequently displayed astonishing talents upon awakening. Even if they were originally mediocre, after being illuminated by the mystic light, they instantly became top-tier geniuses. Whether it was their comprehension skills or physical constitution, both improved dramatically. Many of these individuals made rapid progress in their cultivation over the next 100 years, not taking long to reach levels above Tao fusion. For a time they were known as the children of mystic light, unrivaled in the Floodgate realm, and were welcomed by any sect. Especially those new superpowers that rose during the glorious century were particularly eager. This batch of suddenly advanced Tao fusion saints was quickly scooped up by various sects, entering into high positions within these organizations, becoming akin to revered elders. Yet all this had little to do with the Haoran sect. Under Jiang Chengxuan's strict policies, the Haoran sect did not recruit any cultivators associated with the mystic secret realms, whether they were disciples or elders. Because of Jiang Chengxuan's action, the Floodgate realm subtly divided into two factions of cultivators. On one side were those who shunned the cultivators who had prospered during the glorious century, believing that those who advanced through the opportunities provided by the mystic light secret realms would eventually fade into mediocrity. On the other side were the cultivators who had reached the pinnacle thanks to the century's opportunities, naturally banding together to oppose those who disparaged the mystic light secret realms of the glorious century. However, all of this was irrelevant to Jiang Chengxuan. These matters could not impact him. His focus remained solely on the prophecy about the Black Sun, regardless of how the outside world speculated. He never wavered in his conviction. But ever since the secret realms began to return to normal, the messages that could be investigated became fewer and fewer. Yet his uneasy premonition never diminished, especially regarding those proclaimed geniuses born from the mystic light secret realm. Every time such news reached him, Jiang Chengxuan felt an indescribable sense of eeriness. That mystic light secret realm remained a shadow in his heart that he could not erase. Was it truly possible for an opportunity to directly enhance someone's innate talent to such a degree? Even after years of scouring through the archives and jade slips of immortal Eastern River, Jiang Chengxuan could not find any analogous phenomena. Could such a thing exist only in the floodgate realm, and not even in the 36 immortal domains? Such a probability was incredibly slim, almost laughable. Jiang Chengxuan was firm in his belief that his instincts were not wrong. Chengxuan, something big has happened. Just as Jiang Chengxuan was pondering over the doubts in his mind, a sudden voice came from outside Cloud Mist Peak. The voice belonged to his Shifu, Qin Shenwu, and carried an urgency and astonishment that was completely unlike him. This instantly raised an alarm in Jiang Chengxuan's heart. He looked at Shen Ruyan, and without any hesitation, the two immediately appeared outside Cloud Mist Peak. The gravely serious expression on Qin Shenwu's face immediately caught their eyes. What could possibly make such an experienced Daelord so shocked? What's wrong, Shifu? Jiang Chengxuan suppressed the ominous premonition in his heart and asked. What he got in return were these heavy words from Qin Shenwu. Gone, several super sects in the floodgate realm have suddenly disappeared. Overnight, completely vanished. From Qi refinement cultivators to Dao integration cultivators, everyone has disappeared without exception. For a moment, even with the resilience of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, they were both deeply shaken. Finally, the shocking changes they feared had happened so suddenly and unexpectedly. What exactly happened, Shifu? Jiang Chengxuan could only continue to press, sinking his heart deeper. Qin Shenwu's brief words signified too many possibilities. Then, as Qin Shenwu elaborated, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan finally understood the full scope of the situation. The missing sects included 5 in total. All without exception were superpowers, each harboring numerous Dao integration cultivators, even some at the level of Dao mastery. This incident happened overnight. If it weren't for someone happening to contact someone within these sects, perhaps they wouldn't have been able to learn of it so swiftly. These sects had truly vanished as if evaporated, leaving no trace behind, turning into barren land. After hearing everything, the shock on Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's faces lingered for a long time. What kind of force could possibly make a large group of Dao integration cultivators disappear? Even if Jiang Chengxuan himself took action, he admits he couldn't achieve such silence, and perhaps not even immortals could accomplish this. At the same time, this news was also instantaneously spreading across all the sects in the floodgate realm. Almost everyone reacted even more dramatically than Qin Shenwu and Jiang Chengxuan. Some, who were closely connected to those sects, were so disturbed that even their Dao hearts became unstable. A nameless shadow of fear rose in the hearts of many sect leaders, terrified by such power, which they had never heard of before. Search, get me detailed information. All sects immediately dispatched Disciple to investigate the missing superpower's location. But when the detailed information came back, it only made the sect leaders feel colder. After 100 years of brilliant prosperity in the floodgate realm, suddenly, this vast shadow loomed over, terrifying those accustomed to prosperity. At this moment, in the floodgate realm at Tianyu sect, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, after receiving the news, no longer hesitated and instantly traversed the void to the reported location. Here was one of the locations of the vanished superpowers. Standing in the void, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked towards a series of architectural marvels nestled among the mountains, majestic halls and pavilions under the shroud of twilight, resembling a cascade of the Milky Way amidst the peaks, resplendent buildings as far as the eye could see, emanating an immense and grand aura, showcasing the prosperity that once was. But Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were in no mood to admire all this. Under their profound senses, this thriving sect was devoid of any signs of life. Such a vast area, yet completely devoid of life, this stark contrast only added to the eeriness of the place. Everything is intact, even the protective sect array is still operational. Withdrawing his senses, Jiang Chengxuan said gravely, what kind of force could instantly take away tens of thousands of cultivators silently, allowing them no chance even to cry for help? Let's go in and see. Yang Chengshuan heightened his vigilance and spoke to Shen Ruyan. Next, they manifested their Tao rules and effortlessly passed through the unattended protective array into the sect. What they encountered was a ceremonial platform with a giant cauldron used for timing, holding a stick of incense several meters long, still slowly burning and emitting blue smoke. This proved that there were living people here not long ago. Without lingering, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan walked on and soon entered a grand hall. The sect's pill hall, where pill furnaces were still burning fiercely without any supervision, flames dancing without wind, but no one was in sight, only an abundance of scattered spirit fans on the ground. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged glances, sensing the irregularity of the situation. Whether it was the pill furnaces in the pill hall or the ceremonial platform outside, everything was untouched and intact. Not even a single sign of damage indicated that any battle had taken place here, confirming that no conflict had occurred. This realization made the situation even more perplexing. What kind of force could make entire sects of cultivators disappear without leaving any trace of struggle or resistance? Even activating spiritual power to launch a single attack only takes a moment. Could there really be a power that, within the span of a breath, could completely control tens of thousands of cultivators without a single one reacting? Such a hypothesis was terrifying. Even if Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan joined forces, they believed it would be impossible to achieve such a feat. Together, they represented the pinnacle of power in the floodgate realm. Even they doubted they could suppress so many cultivators in such a manner. Following this conclusion, the force capable of carrying out these disappearances must transcend this world. Let's visit the other sects as well. Jiang Chengshuan spoke with heavy solemnity. Subsequently, they quickly traveled to the locations of the other 4 vanished superpowers. Unfortunately, the results were dishearteningly similar. All evidence pointed to the same bizarre occurrences as at Tianyu sect. Everything indicated that just before their disappearance, these sects were bustling with tens of thousands of cultivators. But just one night later, they had all vanished without a trace of a fight. Not even a drop of blood was left behind. After their investigations proved fruitless everywhere, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan returned to the Haoran sect with heavy hearts. The situation was too eerie, and their only conclusion was that a force beyond this world must be involved. This realization also meant they no longer needed to probe other sects, as no power within the floodgate realm could exert such influence. Confident in this, Jiang Chengshuan knew not even the Haoran sect, let alone any other, could have orchestrated these events. As Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan made their return, other sects, cultivators were just arriving at the sites of the disappearances to conduct thorough investigations. Ultimately, their findings aligned perfectly with those of Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan. No new information could be gleaned. The news chilled the sect leaders to the bone. While they lacked the depth of understanding possessed by Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan, they knew well enough that whoever could orchestrate such events could easily obliterate any force within the realm. This storm of news swept across the floodgate realm, marking the first time since the glorious century that such immense negative news had stirred up such large waves. Previously, the biggest news typically involved breakthroughs to Daylord or similar achievements. But now, reports were circulating of entire super sects mysteriously vanishing, a stark and unsettling contrast that left many cultivators disoriented and incredulous. Super sects in particular were the most alarmed, knowing that all the vanished sects shared the common trait of being super sects themselves. The entire realm was engulfed in a palpable atmosphere of every man for himself. As time mercilessly passed, this atmosphere persisted, and a century went by, marking the most terrifying 100 years in the floodgate realm, all the more poignant against the backdrop of the previous century of prosperity. In response to the mysterious disaster, sects founded numerous branches as safeguards against potential future incidents. Some, out of fear, even declared their withdrawal from major alliances or left their clans, actions bordering on hysteria. However, even as investigations continued without yielding results, and 100 years of peace seemed to reassure everyone that the worst was over, the mysterious events shockingly occurred again, right under everyone's watchful eyes. Another super sect disappeared overnight, despite being on high alert and closely monitored by countless individuals. This occurrence was even more terrifying than the original disappearances a century ago. How is it possible? They disappeared overnight again, and even their branches weren't spared. echoed incredulously through the halls of countless sects, their leaders unable to calm their emotions. The sect that vanished this time was the Divine Mechanism sect, known for its prowess in crafting and mechanical defenses. Their defenses were reputed to be impregnable, insurmountable even to Daelords. Yet this sect renowned for its defenses had evaporated overnight, along with all its branches, leaving no survivors. When this news broke, all sects sent investigators to the scene, but just like a century ago, they found no signs of struggle, not even a drop of blood. This recurrence intensified the shadows that had only just begun to recede from people's minds. The event seemed to taunt them all, a sinister reminder from the unseen manipulator that no amount of vigilance could prevent their disappearance. This time, especially the super sects couldn't maintain their composure any longer. Urgent missives were sent out by these super sects to all major powers, seeking a coalition to discuss the crisis. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan was holding several of these urgent requests in his hands, all pleading for the Haoran sect's assistance in a joint council. In fact, ever since the eerie incidents began a century ago, many among the upper echelons of various sects had thought of Jiang Chengxuan, who had long warned of an impending great calamity. At a time when everyone else was basking in the realm's prosperity, only the Haoran sect had adhered to a principle of caution. And now, these successive events within a short span had proven Jiang's predictions correct. Regardless of whether the century of prosperity was related to these events, the great calamity he had anticipated was unfolding. Only a disaster of cosmic proportions, a fabled catastrophe of heaven and earth, could wield such otherworldly power. "What do you think, husband? Shall we agree to their request?" Shen Ruyan asked gently next to Jiang Chengxuan. Although he remained indifferent, Shen Ruyan had not forgotten the derogatory remarks some of these requesting sects had made about Jiang in the past. "Yes, after all, this concerns the entire floodgate realm. If they can unite, we might better withstand the great calamity," Jiang Chengxuan replied thoughtfully. Hearing this, Shen Ruyan simply nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Despite the past, her character allowed her to prioritize the bigger picture over personal grievances, especially when Jiang Chengxuan was involved. "Let's go," Jiang Chengxuan said, and with that, a portal of swirling space opened within the hall and the couple stepped through, disappearing from sight. Floodgate Realm, Wuyang Mountain. This location was an unclaimed territory within the realm, rumored to have once been the ascension site of a Daelord who ascended to the immortal realm, known as Immortal Wuyang. Thus, the area was named after him. At this moment, atop Wuyang Mountain, surrounded by clouds that made it look like a celestial abode, there was an ancient platform where numerous figures were gathered. These were the high-ranking members from various sects. The least among them were Daelords, and the gathering included familiar faces such as Daelord Pantheon and Daelord Divine Shadow. However, their expressions were somber and filled with gravity. Atop Mount Wuyang, amid an atmosphere of urgency and fear, a cultivator suddenly called out, "What about it, master of the Haoran sect? Is there still no reply?" This speaker was Wu Xin, the sect master of one of the few super sects that had sent out a secret missive, the Five Hearts sect. At this moment, representatives from nearly all sects that received the secret message had gathered on the platform atop Mount Wuyang, yet the message sent to the Floodgate Realm's currently strongest sect, the Haoran sect, seemed to have vanished without a trace. "No, perhaps," replied the person Wu Xin addressed, another sect master responsible for organizing this union. Confronted with the question, he was reminded of past events, causing his speech to falter slightly, reflecting his unease. This hesitation struck a chord with some sects present, sparking regret within them. Had they foreseen today's troubles, they surely would not have chosen to criticize the Haoran sect in the past. Only now did they realize the significant role the Haoran sect played in the Floodgate realm, especially during such critical times. Historically, it was the Haoran sect that had helped the realm overcome several calamities, aiding their rise step by step. Yet, during the years of prosperity, some had chosen deliberately to forget this. While they were inwardly regretting and assuming that the Haoran sect might choose to remain uninvolved, a remarkably calm voice suddenly resonated through the area. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Haoran sect in the Thunderclap Valley have arrived. We hope we haven't kept you waiting too long." This statement immediately sparked a wave of elation among the high-level leaders of various sects, who quickly stood up to greet the newcomers. "Master Jiang, Lady Shen, You are truly the saviors of our floodgate realm. Waiting any amount of time would be worthwhile." Wu Xin, who had been quite distressed, was now overtly ingratiating in his address. Other sect leaders also echoed his sentiments, praising the great deeds of the Haoran sect in Thunderclap Valley. This sudden burst of enthusiasm somewhat surprised Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruoyan. Though they were well aware of the underlying motives of these sect leaders, their hearts remained unmoved. "Thank you, but the Haoran sect can only contribute so much. We cannot bear too much responsibility alone," Jiang Chengxuan replied in a calm and measured tone, his casual response causing many smiles to stiffen, a clear indication of his slight displeasure. Nevertheless, the other leaders could only swallow their feelings, maintaining their forced smiles. As the atmosphere grew tenser, a person approached Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruoyan. The crowd looked up to see it was none other than Daelord Pantheon. "Congratulations, fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen. When did you two advance to Mahayana? Truly, this is a feat that demands my utmost admiration." Under everyone's gaze, Daelord Pantheon spoke with a light laugh, his eyes filled with both shock and admiration. It was only then that everyone present realized that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruoyan had both ascended to the peak of the floodgate realm by becoming Mahayanas. The crowd was visibly stunned, with many unable to hide their astonishment or the sense of being overwhelmed. Mahayanas. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruoyan had risen to prominence in just a few thousand years, and now they were already at the pinnacle of their cultivation, a fact that made many seasoned cultivators, who had spent several times longer in their own practices, reel in disbelief. How is such fortune even possible when many of us have lived for tens of thousands of years without encountering it? They wondered silently. Meanwhile, understanding the true depth of power within the Haoran sect, now equipped to withstand any calamity, made all previous critics look foolish. Even if the Haoran sect ceased to advance, they would likely remain unmatched for tens of thousands of years. With such power, what would they care about the prosperity of the past century's mysterious realms? "Please be humble, sit down. Let us discuss the matter of the disappearances," suggested Daelord Pantheon, inviting Jiang and Shen to the highest seats available. Thus began a crucial discussion about the fate of the floodgate realm atop the secluded peak of Mount Wuyang. The summit's initial proceedings were led by the sect masters who had organized the meeting. "This recent mysterious disappearance concerns us all, as I believe each of you has gathered information. Now, let us share what we know to better understand and address the situation." The disappeared sects include Tianyu sect, Azure Saber sect, Mount Mover Gate, Feiyun Pavilion, Golden Cloud Gate, and Shenji Gate, 6 in total. The common thread is their overnight evaporation, with no survivors from the lowest disciple to the highest-ranking Daelords, leaving no trace behind. Furthermore, their sect premises were left completely undamaged. There were no signs of struggle or battle. This report once again lowered the mood at the summit to a chilling silence. While all the attendees were previously aware of these details, the restatement of the facts still inevitably sent shivers down their spines. The situation is as stated. I invite everyone to speak freely and contribute ideas on how we can save the floodgate realm from this peril. However, these words hung in the air as no one immediately responded. Clearly, no one present felt they had a viable solution to propose. Finally, under the expectant gazes of the assembly, it was Jiang Chengxuan who broke the silence. "At this moment, it's clear this is related to the great calamity. Such an act is beyond me, and only a force that transcends our realm could achieve this." His statement immediately tightened the knot of tension in everyone's stomachs. The great calamity. By now, no one could deny its existence, which also meant that the vanishing of the sects was merely the beginning of what was to come. While this incident was mysterious compared to the apocalyptic destruction depicted in legends of the Great Calamity, it was relatively mild. This led to an unsettling realization: what more terrifying events might lie ahead? For a moment, no one dared to consider the future. The sense of crisis surrounding life and death quickly overwhelmed everyone present. To confront the Great Calamity, all sects in the floodgate realm must be prepared to exert every effort. This is crucial, and I hope everyone understands, Jiang Chengxuan continued with a grave tone. The calamity threatens to overturn our world, sparing no one. Are you all prepared to face it?